For Snell, there's a homecoming element to all of this. Yes, he is from the West Coast originally, and Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers' president of baseball operations, was the Rays GM when they drafted him back in 2011. The Dodgers, as we know, now have a rotation for the ages. They expect to have Shohei Ohtani pitching again in 2025, joining Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and a cast of renown in L.A.
That was JP Morosi earlier today talking about the Dodgers' newfound pitcher, Alex. They signed, unbelievable, Blake Snell last night to a 5-year contract. So we'll get into the specifics on that coming up here in just a moment. But with Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Dodgers are inevitable, dude. If there is a superstar on the market, just assume they're going to get him. But more notably, a superstar with, like, best in the league at his position potential. Because that's what Blake Snell is. We saw it in the second half of the year last year where he went on this all-time great run for the San Francisco Giants. Just looked unhittable at times. And now you see their rotation, the Dodgers heading into next year. Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow might be their number 4 starter. Jeez. Tyler Glasnow, who would be the number 1 on like 25 teams in Major League Baseball, potentially the number 4 starter for next year's LA Dodgers. I didn't mention Bobby Miller, Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May. We'll see what happens with Clayton Kershaw. This is absurd. What we are witnessing right now, this is the Warriors of Major League Baseball. This was the signing that did it for me, man. They were already basically some version of the Avengers that had come together this year. Now you add in this guy. Good luck. How do you compete with this, man? Like, you just hope they get hurt.
Hope
That's
that
it,
everyone
right?
gets injured at some point. Yeah. I mean, that's what... I mean, look, as much as it's frustrating and you hate this, you do give them credit. Like, hey, they are aggressive and they go out there and they just keep bringing in talent. But you hate it because they've got the money to spend. They find ways to work the system so that they get these talented players in. And I still don't think this is like the Dodgers aren't just like, all right, Blake Snell, boys, we're done. Like, I get to see them going out there and getting Sasaki or going out there and still trying to find a way to get Juan Soto for this team or hitting the freaking trade market and trading like a Bobby Miller to bring in a good asset for their roster. This is a team that I think everybody is going to hate this season, but you also have to respect the hell out of them.
The Dodgers right now, as of today, are scheduled to spend $261 million on their payroll next year. To put that in context, the Padres are 5th for their current payroll next year in Major League Baseball at $200 million. $60 million more than the number 5 team in baseball. The Cubs are 10th in Major League Baseball in spending going into next year at $170 million.
And I wouldn't expect that to go much higher.
Yeah.
The gap between the haves and the have-nots has never been greater than it is at this particular moment. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Hey, guys, remember when you said that that Major League Baseball doesn't need a cap? This is not good for baseball in the least.
Oh, I disagree.
We did not say that.
Yeah, we want a cap.
We did not say that here on this show. I believe that baseball absolutely needs a cap. Maybe it's not a hard cap, but something harder than what they currently have is necessary. I also think they need a floor. I think they need both sides of it. Because what you're seeing right now is half of the sport doesn't want to spend anything. Like the Washington Nationals right now are currently projected to spend $69 million. That is effectively the AAV of Shohei Ohtani's contract. Ooh. And that's for the entirety of the Washington Nationals payroll. There are 5 teams spending less than them. This is a real problem for Major League Baseball, and I don't know how you fix it because players won't accept a cap. And so there's no real fix that could even be on the table for them.
I mean, the cap would be fantastic. Like, it would fix a lot of these things. I don't know if it's necessarily bad for baseball.
Oh, really?
Like, the move itself, the cap, there needs to be a cap. The move itself, we talked about this during the season to where I think you and I, T-Bone, were like, is there a villain in baseball? There is now. There is a villain in baseball. And guess what? When there's somebody that you hate in the sport, It makes viewing a lot more enjoyable. Now, the problem is that team might whoop up on you a lot every time you take them on. But when injuries take place, you know what happens? You're going to be watching to beat up that team. Like, they finally have a villain that I think all of Major League Baseball can collaborate and hate.
Somebody from the text line from the 618. We want to hear from you guys. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is off and running at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where the graveyard chat is available for all of you. Hey, guys, the Dodgers are simply smarter than everybody else. They can invest in a Nolan Arenado type of contract value in a fund and pay the extra $20 million in 10 years. That's funded 100% off of interest that's earned. They're not necessarily just smarter than everybody. They also can outspend everybody. Yeah. They have taken the brains of the Rays operation and invested $300 million into their payroll. And when you're willing and able to do both of those things, yeah, the results are pretty damn good. So it's not just that they're smarter than everybody else. You could take me, Alex, and T-Bone, put us into a front office. We'll tell you, hey, you should sign Shohei Ohtani. Hey, you should go out there and get Blake Snell. We can do that part. You should trade for Mookie Betts when he becomes available. Hey, Freddie Freeman, who's arguably the greatest hitter of this generation, like the last decade of Major League Baseball, pure hitter. You should go get that guy when he becomes available as a left-handed hitting option for you that plays great defense at first base, and you have a need at both of those positions. You don't have to be the best and the brightest to go do those things. What they're really good at, though, is knowing when to move off of players, knowing when to push their chips into the middle, knowing which of those top-tier free agents to invest on and not hitting the landmines, right? They've been really good at avoiding the Steven Matzes of the world, for example. But the other thing, if you do end up with one of those contracts and you're the Dodgers, just keep spending, baby. Just keep spending. So I think this is bad for baseball. I think we've officially arrived at that point. I understand, Alex, I'm with you. You need a villain. This isn't just a villain. This is to the point where it's like the Warriors were. Why watch? Yeah. Why watch next year until those guys get hurt? It feels inevitable.
Well, and with basketball, now it's changed a little bit now, but at some point you were going to get to the point where it was, okay, the Warriors have to break up, right? Because of the tax sales coming. The Dodgers don't necessarily have that, man. The Dodgers just keep rolling in the dollars because of the Shohei Ohtani contract. So, like, the NBA, you knew at some point the Warriors were going to have to be broken up, and they eventually did when KD got frustrated with Draymond Green. I don't know where that point comes for the Dodgers, because you said it earlier, they could totally be in on the Juan Soto sweepstakes. They could defer a crap ton of money and really bring down a CBT. Like, they are inevitable, and I do think it is bad for baseball. But while also saying that, I do find this signing particularly interesting because I didn't think he was the guy that made sense for the Dodgers, right?
Oh, really?
A very volatile rotation, and you bring in a Blake Snell, who we've talked about in the past. Though is a guy that typically posts like 160 to 180 innings. He also is a guy that can be like one of the best pitchers in all of baseball or one of the worst pitchers in all of baseball because he has command issues.
But that's what they do.
That's why I found this interesting. I didn't think Snell was their kind of, because you mentioned like avoid the landmines. He definitely is a guy that screams like can be a landmine, and that's why I find this move so fascinating.
Oh, see, I don't view it that way at all. For the pitching side of things, this is what I would be targeting if I was a team. I think the smart teams are showing you the value in signing starting pitchers is not the floor. Forget the floor, dude. You can find a guy that can give you 160 innings at a 4.5 ERA. Those guys are a dime a dozen. I can find those all across Major League Baseball. Hell, if I need it, I'll trade for it at the deadline and trade off my 25th ranked prospects to acquire
Dodgers just made it through the regular season basically doing that when they lost Tyler Glasnow, Clayton Kershaw, no Shohei, and Yamamoto was out.
Look at the guys that are available every year at the trade deadline. You want to go get the next version of Lance Lynn? I promise you there's going to be 6 of them that are available at this year's trade deadline. Kyle Gibson, available every year in the offseason.
That's not who I'm saying that I thought the Dodgers would target. I thought Burns was more their guy, right? Guy that posts every single season.
He's got some downside, man. There were some signs of decline with him. The reason why I mentioned that, the upside is what you pay for. That's what you pay for in Major League Baseball. And I'm not sure there is a pitcher in the sport that has more upside than Blake Snell. Snell at any point can go 7 innings of scoreless baseball with 14 strikeouts. And when I've got that kind of upside, whether it's Snell or Yamamoto, who they signed last offseason, or Tyler Glasnow, who they traded for and then signed during the offseason as well, that is what you pay for now. That kind of real, tangible, legit upside of striking out the world, I'm spending for those kinds of pitchers, not the mid-tier to even above average tier. I think Burns is really, really good. There was some slippage in his stuff last season. And I think that's probably what the Dodgers are seeing here and why they targeted Blake Snell over Corbin Burns.
And I don't disagree with anything that you just said about Blake Snell. This is why I blame the Cardinals, because they should have signed Blake Snell last year rather than Gibson and Lance Lynn.
Hey.
Because the fun fact of BK and Ferrario for the day, Blake Snell has 11.2 strikeouts per nine in his Major League career. That is the best in Major League Baseball history. There is upside for sure. But the reason I mentioned that I find this move fascinating, because all those upside guys you're right about Blake Snell, they had that in the Dodgers rotation. I thought they would look for a guy that still is really good, that also has a really solid floor, and that's why I thought Burns was their target. And he's 2 years younger. Now, you're right, maybe the stuff metric where there was a little bit of dip-off, maybe that was what kind of threw the Dodgers off the scent. I didn't think Snell was the guy. I thought Snell was going to be a guy that was going to be going out east, where he was going to go and probably lock up with Baltimore or with Boston. I knew the Dodgers would be in on this market. I didn't think they were going to be the ones that were going to bring him to their spot to be their number 3 starter.
This has downside. I think people are overstating the downside to it for this team. For a team that is operating on a budget, there is real downside to Blake Snell. There's a potential for a landmine here, T-Bone. But when you have these other guys in the rotation that they currently have, dude, they're just gambling that by the time they get to October, 2 or 3 of them are available. That's it. Because if you've got 2 or 3 of these dudes available in your rotation once you get to October, it's over, man. You have what everybody is seeking, which is 2 front-end starting pitchers, a potential for a lockdown bullpen, and I'm sure they'll attack that this offseason as well, and a lineup that goes at least 4 deep with superstars. That is your 3-3-3 construction, T-Bone. They basically have that, as long as a few of these guys stay healthy over the course of not even the entirety of the season. Forget that, dude. This team's winning 100 games, whether they stay healthy or not. They've got enough dudes there to do that.
They just need to be healthy for the playoffs.
Exactly. Get them healthy by September. If you do that, you're good to go. We know that these guys aren't going to start 30 games apiece.
You know it's going to be fun?
It's 20 apiece. Get me 20 starts from each one of these guys, and you're good by the time you get to October.
You know what's going to be fun is we're going to get to September, and it's going to be the classic Dodgers story of, man, I don't know how they're winning 100 games. They don't have anybody healthy. Everybody's going to be screaming from the mountaintops. They don't have enough pitching. And then you'll look in October and be like, oh, hey, they just went back-to-back.
We'll get to the deferred money coming up at 11:45. Plenty more on this throughout the day today. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for you guys to get your questions in for Ask Us Anything. We'll get to that at 11:45. But coming up next, we got to talk to Dan Rosen. He works out in New York. The Rangers have been a massive topic of conversation lately for some of the trade options that they have. Does he think that they fit in trade negotiations with the St. Louis Blues? We'll also get his thoughts on the Blues hiring Jim Montgomery. Dan Rosen of NHL.com joins us next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Dan Rosen, hockey analyst for NHL.com. Wrote a story recently on Jim Montgomery and how he ended up with the St. Louis Blues, the crazy week that led to him coaching here in St. Louis once again. Dan, we appreciate the time as always, man. What did you find most interesting about Jim Montgomery being named the next head coach, or the head coach now, for the St. Louis Blues?
Well, it's just how fast it happens. Obviously, you lose the job Tuesday in Boston. You're hired Sunday in St. Louis. And all of a sudden you're wearing new colors and, new sweatshirts and everything. But he probably just pulled it out of the closet. He joked he pulled it out of the closet because he was obviously with the Blues for a couple of seasons before going to Boston. But I'll tell you what I found most interesting, and we don't see it as often as maybe we should. I don't know. Doug Armstrong pounced. When a guy he felt, and this is with all due respect to Drew Bannister, okay? When a guy he felt was better than the guy he had became available, well, he got him. And I think that's just good management. That's just understanding of, you know what, this guy might not be available in a couple of weeks, right? Let's get him now. Now, if the Blues were rolling along and let's just even say their record was reversed from where it was, 12-9-1 instead of 9-12-1, maybe you don't make that change, right? If they weren't struggling a little bit as a team, maybe you don't make that change. But it didn't seem like this move was made because Armstrong lost faith in the team or he lost faith in Drew Bannister or anything along those lines, or that the team was shutting out Bannister. This move was made simply because a better coach at this time came along, and unexpectedly.
Dan, sorry to cut you off there. You've been watching the NHL for a long time. Can a head coach move the needle that much in the NHL?
Well, yes. You guys saw it with Craig Berube, right? Like, it can happen, but it happens. It's not that the head coach is moving the needle a month from now. It's the immediate bump a team gets from the head coach that, okay, everybody's back is up now, right? Like, they're like, okay, they made this move. Now we got to do our part here. We haven't been doing our part, or they wouldn't have made this move. Now, it seems like this one's a little bit different in the sense of the guy who became available and whatnot, but still, there is that onus on the players, and Braden Shen talked about that. And you need to get a bump. If you experience the bump for the first 3, 4, 5 games, well, then it becomes a trend that can continue. And if you go back the other way, then the coach is not making that much of a difference. But if that bump leads to sustained, consistent success, or at least consistency within your game, then I think that coach has made a difference. And he really has, because that it becomes on the players to continue along with it. The coach is going to do his job. Like Montgomery, he's working the players right now. He's getting to know the guys he didn't know. He's reconnecting with the guys he did. He's working it. He's got a lot of emotion. He's fired up. But then the grind kicks in, right? And it's on the players to be able to continue that. So the bump has to lead to something.
Dan Rosen is our guest here on 101 ESPN. You can read his great work over at NHL.com. Dan, I did want to ask you about that playoff race because, I know we're only at Thanksgiving, but about a quarter of the way through the season, the Western Conference just hasn't seemed to pull away from the Blues like I thought they might at this point. You've got Colorado, who's got some serious goaltending issues right now. Do you believe that the Blues, if they do use this as a springboard for themselves, do you think they can still get themselves back into this playoff race?
I think they can, yeah. Like, I don't think it's still early. They're not that far out. They need to generate. They need to score. They need to, they were able to do that for one game against a struggling team in the New York Rangers. That's got to continue. They play a team tonight in New Jersey that's rolling. They won 8 of 10. They're dominating games, playing a real professional game, the Devils are right now. They went into Florida, and they won twice against the Panthers in Florida. That's not easy to do. It's got to continue on. They got to be able to generate offense. But listen, I really do like the Jets, the Wild, and the Stars. To me, are not going anywhere in the Central Division. And Colorado is the wild card there, right? And literally, they are the wild card there right now. But they're the team. Like, if they can get any type of consistent goaltending, you know that they're going to be a really hard team to catch. They are. And I don't know if I expect consistent goaltending, but I do expect Colorado to play. But look, they're 7-3 in their last 10 games, so they are playing better. I know they had the 8-2 loss to Tampa the other night. To me, if you look in the other division, And that's where, if you're the Blues, you take note of, okay, Vegas is there. Edmonton, I expect to just continue to get better and better and better. But is Calgary going to stay there? Are they that good? I don't know about that. Vancouver's got its own problems. Are they that good? I don't know. We'll see. And maybe you look at it and say, if we're going to sneak in, we're going to sneak in as a 15th from the Central, not as a 4th team from the Central.
Dan, when you look at this Blues roster, of course, we're talking about them now trying to be a playoff team, but bigger picture, Doug Armstrong has labeled it a retool to where it might take a few years. When you look at the makeup of this team, do they seem like a team that's heading in the right direction?
They listen. We have to see the young guys that come in, right? We have to see the talent that they can infuse over the next year or two. They like them. I mean, so there is that. Look, Zach Bolduc, if he can start taking off, that's a really good find right there. And you get more offense out of him. That's big. I like Dylan Holloway. I like Philip Broberg. I like the moves to get those guys in. So. Kairu's not an old player, neither is Robert Thomas. They're in the prime of their careers right now, mid-20s. They have pieces. They have guys there. They need to be able to take that next step. We need to see some of the young guys that come in. So, because you're looking now, we're projecting out 3-4 years. We're not projecting out to the end of this season. We're projecting out 3-4 years. Neighbors looks like he can play and he can have sustained success in this league. So they have a lot of good pieces. What they don't have, in my mind right now, they don't have a game breaker. They don't have that elite number one center. Name me the last team to win the Stanley Cup without a number one center that was just at the top of his game, right? The Blues won with Ryan O'Reilly, who elite number one center because he's such an overall two-way player, right? But it doesn't happen. You need to have that guy, and I think that's a missing piece, and I think it's going to be a hard piece to get for them. And I don't know if they even have a number one defenseman right now. So you're a team that's lacking that grade A, game-breaking number one center and probably a number one defenseman as well. And that's going to make it a little bit more of a challenge for them to overcome teams that have those pieces. But that's not to say they can't get them or they can't win by the sum of their parts.
I think the Blues would push back on that and say that they believe that Robert Thomas can be that guy, but I think it's at least a fair discussion to have. The other thing to me, Dan, is that winger, right? Like the number one guy, go-to, big situation, who's shooting the puck, especially like you get on the power play, who's the guy that you have to worry about. I don't know that the Blues have that player right now. And I did want to ask you, because you're located out in New York, there's been a lot of discussion about the New York Rangers and what their plan is over the next month, 2 months, and certainly as we get closer to the trade deadline. Chris Kreider is a guy that I love. He's one of my favorite players to watch because of the style of player that he is. He'll park his ass in front of the net and just score 35 goals a year. What do you think the Rangers' plans are as we get closer to the deadline, and is he a guy that you believe is legitimately available?
Well, I think he's available. I do. I think he can be traded for, but the Rangers can't just trade him for a draft pick, or this isn't a sell-off trade, right? This isn't a pending UFA guy you're just trying to get rid of because you're building towards next year. They believe that they can win the Stanley Cup this year. They haven't played like it, but they believe they can, and they're looking to shake things up. But if you're going to trade an impact player, and Chris Kreider's still an impact player, you better get an impact player in return. Change of scenery, shake up, I get all of it, but you're not just trading this guy to get parts. You have to get a player that you can put into your lineup and will make an impact for you right away and a significant impact, because or else what's the point here? Right?
What do you think that looks like? Like, are they targeting a specific position, a specific style? Like, what do you think that the Rangers would be looking for in return?
A really good question. I think they would probably be targeting a guy who can play more with the puck at 5-on-5. Has that element to his game. Kreider's 5-on-5 game has fallen off. He's a terrific guy on the power play, maybe the best in front of the net. He's a breakaway waiting to happen on the penalty kill, but his 5-on-5 game has tailed. That might have something to do with the struggles of Mika Zibanejad. That all of it kind of goes in hand. But I would think that the Rangers would probably be looking at a guy, and I don't have a specific player in mind right now. I'm not there, but like somebody who can score, but somebody who can control play off of the wing if need be, or even in the middle at 5-on-5. And I think a lot of this also goes into Filipino's status. Now, it wasn't a concussion, they say, but he's got a history of it. If there's issues there with Filipino as a third-line center, the Rangers' need will be down the middle. And that changes things maybe for them as well. But it's, to me, a guy who you can put on your power play and he can be effective, but they don't have to get a guy who has to play on their first power play. Alexis Lafreniere can go up and play on the first power play unit. They need a guy who can control the play and control the puck at 5-on-5.
Going back one more, Dan, to the Blues, and specifically with these trade conversations, they've obviously shown their aggressiveness in the offseason with Broberg and Holloway. They show the aggressiveness 5 days into Jim Montgomery being fired to bring him in. Does this team seem like a team that might be aggressive via trade at some point this season?
I wouldn't count Doug Armstrong out. I think if they're close, I think he knows it, that this, as well as this is a reset, if you want to call it that, they've got guys signed, big time deals who are in the prime of their careers. Kyrou Thomas, Shen's coming out of the prime of his career, but still signed long term. Buchnevich, Brandon Saad, just up front. Those are the guys I'm just naming up front, right? And then you got Falk and you got Parayko, so and obviously Binnington, they're in a mode right now where I think it's a little bit of a wait and see on the trade market. But if they are close and if they can push themselves in with some moves, I think you would expect them to do that. What they don't have right now that I don't see necessarily is, a lot to give back. That's where you've got to be careful, right? You don't want to trade too much of your future right now, and they don't have a lot of draft picks in 2025. They don't have a ton in the 26 draft either. They got more than they do in the 25 draft at this point. So you don't want to trade off your future assets to just get in. So it's a fine line that they're going to have to go here. But if they have a chance, or if they're in and they can improve their chances once they get in, then I think you're going to see them try to be a little bit active.
Dan Rosen is a hockey analyst for NHL.com. You can check out his great work over there. You can also follow him on Twitter at DRosenNHL. If you go over there, you can see his podcast. You did talk a lot about the Blues this week with Cam Jansen, so check out that podcast as well. Dan, we appreciate the time as always, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk with you again soon.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Dan Rosen. Appreciate his time as always, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. I am done with Chris Kreider. Seems that the Blues don't have anybody that would fit the criteria that he mentioned.
Yeah, your eyebrows were raising over there, so I guess you were just trying to live in fantasy land for a little bit longer.
Well, he was talking about, hey, this guy's amazing on the power play in front of the net, and look, he's a walking breakout on the PK, and I was like, man, all these things sound
and he's
great.
bad at 5-on-5.
Didn't want to mention that part. I disagree with that. His 5-on-5 numbers are like among the best in the NHL. So he also said that the Blues don't have a number one center. I would certainly push back on that.
Yeah, I would too.
But regardless, if the Rangers are looking for somebody at 5-on-5 that can drive offense for them, the Blues simply do not have that player. The Blues are also looking for that guy. Unfortunately, he doesn't currently reside here in St. Louis. I think Brandon Saad, if they're looking for just hey, let's switch things up, similar but different style of player that's going to get us 25 goals. He's a little cheaper. He allows us to have some flexibility in the offseason. We don't take a full step back, but maybe a half step back from where we were, and the Blues take a half step forward from where they are. That, to me, makes sense, but if they're looking for something more meaningful, A, I don't think Chris Kreider will be traded in that scenario. I don't think there's a team that's going to do that. But B, I certainly don't think it's St. Louis.
Yeah, I think the game breaker that this team needs is off the shot, not off of the style that they play. I think the game breaker that the Blues are searching for right now is somebody with a flick of a wrist can make the game a one-goal difference, like Vladimir Tarasenko was. You don't have that in your system with the exception of Dvorsky or Snuggerud. That's what you'd be looking for more than just a net front presence.
There you go. All right, he's Alex's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, you guys want some more hockey talk?
Hell yeah!
Let's get it with Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. He's going to talk some Blues, and Jim Montgomery with us next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendricks here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the New Jersey Devils. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. The Joey will join Chris Kerber for puck drop at 6. The Sports Update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. He joins us each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. Typically out on Friday, but with the holiday and everything, we decided, you know Friday? What? I'm not going to be here. No.
T-Bone?
I'm actually going out to Macadoodles later on this afternoon.
So you're not working
Hopefully
Friday.
see Mike McKenna because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Got to get a little bit of liquor for the fam. And
spirits for Thanksgiving.
I exclusively do that with Macadoodles, and I will hopefully see Mike McKenna out there. Mike, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
I'm great. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. I bunkered in about 7:30 this morning, got the place ready to go, and we're having a pretty busy day already, guys. It's no surprise. Day before Thanksgiving is always one of the biggest in this industry. So we're ready to have some fun. But I tell you, I had a war in the household the other night. You know why, guys?
Uh-oh.
My in-laws are in town, and they are huge Rangers fans.
Oh, boy.
That had to have felt good then.
Yeah, I think my kids were running around the house a little bit excited. Old Papa Jeff was sitting there a little bit displeasured, but you know what? They're actually really good sports, and it reminds me of the one game I played in MSG. My father-in-law and brother-in-law were there for the game, and I was backing up for the Blue Jackets. Well, Curtis McElhaney's back goes out after the first period, and I get tossed into the game. Well, we end up winning 3-2, and it's the only time I played in MSG, and my in-laws are there, and they did not expect me to be playing. They thought it would just be a casual night to come. They were white as a ghost after the game, dude. Like they had the stress hit them harder than ever before. So that's kind of what I thought of last night. But man, what a game by the Blues! Holy cow, looks good to me.
Is that your favorite arena, Mike? It feels like that would be an unbelievable place to play. But is there any others that beats it for you?
I think that experience is it's up there, man, and it helps that our team won the game.
Sure.
Playing in Montreal was always special, but I never won a game there. So there's kind of a buzz in Montreal that's hard to describe unless you're in the building or on the ice. People there just know hockey so well, and they're so into the game, and it's a different feeling. Just when you walk into MSG as a player, you go up that big, long ramp, and you walk in and you see all the history and the ceiling, and I don't know, man, as an American kid, it's hard to describe it, and actually playing on that ice is definitely one of my favorite memories.
Is the lighting as bad as the players say it is there?
Well, it definitely used to be. They renovated and put the LEDs in. I still don't think it's great. It's such a wonky configuration to the arena itself, shape-wise, that I think it's kind of tough to light it.
Yeah.
But it is dark around the edges, and especially, again, the way it's built, like as a goalie, you can lose pucks real easily if the puck gets above the boards because there's kind of, there's dark curtains and chairs, and it's kind of frustrating as a goalie because you lose track of the puck.
We're talking to Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. He's joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Mike, let's talk about the big news for the Blues, and that was the Jim Montgomery hire. We talked to you last Friday, and at the time, the hire wasn't made, but there was speculation out there. And you said you feel like this is a lot like the Claude Julien situation, where if the Blues wait more than a week, he's not going to be available. So that if they want to make this move, they've got to do it now. Well, Doug Armstrong followed that and went out and made the move. Did you like the decision? What do you think of the Blues now under Jim Montgomery?
I love the decision, but feel so hard for Drew Bannister because the dude did absolutely nothing wrong. He did a lot of things right. He helped stabilize a Blues team that was in free fall last season when he came in. And it's just one of those unfortunate situations where you've got a free agent available that if you don't move on it, like you're not going to get him. I mean, it's almost like imagine the prime of their careers. All of a sudden, Sidney Crosby's up for grabs, and you're going to have to deal your primetime player to get him at the moment, right? And you would do that. And so it's a hard call. I'm sure it wasn't a great conversation for Doug Armstrong to have with Bannister, but ultimately the Blues get a coach in Jim Montgomery that not only has a winning track record, it's also somebody who absolutely to the core understands our city of St. Louis. What makes it tick? What makes teams win? What the alumni means to the area? What the youth hockey programs are like? That all factors in. And I just, when you look at that game against the Rangers the other night, the Blues look like they were having more fun than I'd seen in a while. And I don't think they've been miserable by any stretch before. I think they've been good, but that game really had an energy to it that I haven't seen in a long time.
So, Mike, we hear all the time, and we've talked plenty about why coaches go back and forth and why they're fired and hired as quick as they are in the NHL. But from a player's perspective, what does a coach do to make you, quote, buy in?
Well, to me, I think the best way that the best coaches that I had, and from talking to other friends that played, is it's the coach that gets to know you as a person and understands what makes you tick and how to push those buttons. And if you want to buy into somebody, you have to believe in what they're selling, but you also have to understand that ultimately, deep down at their core, they're in your back pocket. They are on your side. They are there to help you. And it doesn't take long, and especially for the Blues, because a lot of these players have had Jim Montgomery previously as an assistant coach. There's a relationship there. They know him already. They know his reputation. They know what makes him tick. And that was baked into the pie with that hiring. It's harder when you come into an organization completely clean as a head coach because you have to build those relationships, and they go one by one, and sometimes it takes half a season. Jim Montgomery, it's going to take him a week because he doesn't have many players on that roster that he has to foster a brand new relationship with.
Mike, the last question that I've got for you, JR had a really good piece over on The Athletic earlier today about what Jim Montgomery has done for the Blues offense already in one game where they had, I think it was 165 shots. Don't check my math on that, but I'm pretty sure that was
Spot
close. He has them playing, at least through one game, really well offensively. And there were a lot of great quotes in here from Braden Shin, Robert Thomas, Jim Montgomery as well. And everybody said, hey, I think this is a really good offensive team. We just haven't necessarily shown it thus far. I would expect the Blues to say that. What else are they going to say? Do you feel that way, Mike? Do you think this has a chance to still be a really good offensive team?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I don't think that the Blues have been stifled in any way this season, but Bannister's style was definitely a puck possession style. Get the puck in the zone, hang on to it, make sure you're shooting from the right areas. And I think for me, from the teams that I've played against and known Jim Montgomery to coach, he's not afraid to throw a little bit of chaos at the net, and volume shooting and just getting there and getting greasy and dirty and maybe slightly less tactical than a Drew Bannister team. And I think this team right now, with the amount of skill that they've got, young players coming in, even look how good Zach Bolduc was the other night, guys. I think that's a player you could see unleashed under Jim Montgomery. And to me, that's the biggest upside of this club. What do those young players do? How does Bolduc do? How does Holloway continue to show what he can do for the Blues as well? Those are big components, and I think Montgomery's going to do a really good job in eking those out of those players.
All right, Mike, I'm going over to Macadoodles later on this afternoon. I'm going to come check out what your guys' selection looks like for this holiday weekend. For anybody else that's planning to get some liquor, get some beer, get some wine for the next few days, what do you guys have available? What are you doing out there over at Macadoodles over the next few days?
So the big one on a Wednesday, even though it's the day before Thanksgiving, it is Wine Down Wednesday, which means 15% off all wine in the building, and that is the day before Thanksgiving. So this is the day to come in and stock up. We just got a brand new shipment of Camus in. We've got Duckhorn, but we also got things at $15 to $25 that'll knock your Aunt Connie's socks off. And over in Spirits, Guys, I slashed prices and spirits across the board. We are down. We are competitive, and we just got in a bunch of stuff today. We got a couple allocated things that I had out. I'm going to put some more out later, but I also got some really, really good bourbons that are a little bit off the beaten path. I got some Lucky Sevens, some Frank August, and some other stuff that people can come check out at our store. So we're open until 9 o'clock tonight. Looking forward to it. We'll be open from 9 to 2 tomorrow on Thanksgiving.
There you go. 9 to 2 tomorrow on Thanksgiving for all of your needs that you could potentially have for the family. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. Enjoy the holiday. We'll talk with you again soon.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy. See you here at Macadoodles.
Absolutely.
Mike.
Same to you. That's Mike McKenna joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we got to talk about the college football playoff rankings. They left some breadcrumbs for us, Alex, and I've got a list of about 6 teams that are in a huge spot going into this weekend based on what the rankings reveal showed us last night. We'll get to that coming up at 12 o'clock. Ask us anything. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Sports or otherwise, coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alex, I've got a college football parlay ready to go for this upcoming weekend. South Carolina and USC. Yeah, USC to beat Notre Dame straight up on the money lines to win their matchups. And then I've got Mizzou minus the 3 points. I've got Auburn plus 11.5 against Alabama. 4-leg parlay. $10 wins you $262 over on the Circa Sports app in the state of Illinois. You know what that exact same bet would win me over on FanDuel, Alex?
What?
$240, $25 less as your return on investment when betting on FanDuel. This is why we bet exclusively with the Circa Sports app in the state of Illinois. So download the app today.
I got a fun one for you for tonight's Blues game. T-Bone was helping me with this one. So I was looking at just the Blues straight up on the money line, but because Circa's got incredible odds, the alternate puck line, the minus are plus 1.5 for the Blues. They win minus 1.5, so they win by 2 goals. It is plus 450 over on Circa Sports Illinois. And I think the Blues are going to get it. Jim Montgomery, by the way, since he's been head coach of his new team, 2-0 in his first 2 games. So keep that in the back of your mind. Whatever it is for Circa Sports Illinois, you download the app today and you get those best odds thanks to Circa Sports Illinois. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Three 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is off and running as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. If you guys have any questions for Ask Us Anything, sports or otherwise, get them in right now. We start with this from the 618. Alex, do you think that the San Diego Padres are a legitimate option for Nolan Arenado? And if so, do you think that is why the first base remark was made?
I mean, the only connection that I could make with Arenado in the Padres, other than it being in California and would be a spot that I'm sure Arenado would like, would be Mike Schilt. But if you're them, I don't know if I want to take a chance with Nolan Arenado at first base because I don't know what that defense is going to look like. And frankly, I've got the better third baseman already on my team in Manny Machado. So I think it'd be more DH than it would be first base if you bring in Nolan Arenado.
And I don't think there's any reason to do that.
And you've got a ton of guys who are already kind of DHs for that team. So no, I don't think San Diego's a match.
I know that people have connected them to Nolan Arenado. I don't think he makes sense for him at all. Maybe Preller just does it because he's like, hey, he's Nolan Arenado. I'll go ahead and get him on my team and figure out the rest later.
AJ Preller.
I don't think that they make sense. I think the Phillies make more sense for him. I think Boston even makes more sense for him, depending on what they're willing or able to do with Devers. The Yankees make more sense. The Dodgers make more sense. There's 5 or 6 teams that I see as more likely than the Padres. So I'm out on this one.
Yeah, I can't see it, and I think the only reason he's getting any connection to San Diego is the Mike Schilt, and it's A.J. Preller. Like, that guy, this is the first year. Everybody loves the way A.J. Preller builds, where it's always so aggressive. He makes these trades. This was the first year he actually built a legitimate roster. So I could see where he kind of kicks the tires and kind of wanders down a path. I don't think they'll end up doing it because I think it doesn't make sense to play him at first base.
All right, from the 314, guys, Brady Cook said in his interview this weekend that he would like his legacy to be that he had a winning record at Missouri and he was considered to be a winning quarterback. His record now is a winning record, but he doesn't have any signature victories in his time at Mizzou. His win, a big win. He doesn't have a big win on his resume against any of the SEC teams. What do you think his legacy will be as Missouri's quarterback? I've got a lot of thoughts on this. It's actually what I wrote about in the Alton Telegraph for this upcoming week.
There are no plugs on this show. We just dropped a new episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast talking about Jim Montgomery. You can check that out up on our YouTube channel.
I don't have a plug, so go follow me on Twitter at T-Bone101ESPN.
Smash that like button, yo.
I think when we look back 10, 15, 20 years from now, Brady Cook's legacy at Mizzou will be that he brought Missouri back to relevancy. I think his legacy actually is very similar to what James Franklin did. James Franklin was not remembered fondly for his time while he was here at Mizzou. But when you look back on it, man, James Franklin was awesome. But he had injuries that ended up derailing his career at the very end. I'll never forget. It says we're a day or two away from senior day now for Mizzou. At James Franklin's senior day, after that Arkansas win in 2014, 2013 rather, James Franklin, as they typically do, they went over to the Rock M. And normally what you see is the seniors will pick out the biggest and the heaviest Rock M that they can possibly find, and then they'll carry that across the field on the shoulders of their teammates. It's a really cool tradition that Missouri does every year. James Franklin did the opposite. He went over to the Rock M, and he found the smallest pebble that he could find. And the reason why was he said afterwards in his interview availability, said, this is symbolic of my time at Missouri. When I started here, I was a huge rock, right? He was this 4-star prospect, big-time commit for Mizzou. And there was all of the praise in the world for James Franklin. And then he was beaten down over time into a little pebble. And then he said, but I'm still here. And just like this little pebble with the rock in, I'm still here doing my thing at the University of Missouri. And Missouri went on to win the SEC East championship that year because of his doing in part. So I think that'll be what he's ultimately remembered for, is a similar type of a legacy to what James Franklin was in his time. Both of them winning quarterbacks brought Missouri back to relevancy, and ultimately they'll be remembered for what happens after them as much as they are what happened during their tenure.
Yeah, I don't view Brady Cook's time at Mizzou as a disappointment. I mean, I think when you go back-to-back seasons, I know you don't get to double-digit wins this year, but you have a 11-win season, and then you have a team that had the hype, and of course he dealt with injuries on top of the team just really never hitting their full potential. I still view it as a success for Brady Cook. I mean, you had one of the better seasons for Mizzou last year since what, BK? Late 2000s? Early 2010s? 2013-14. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I personally view that as a success, even though I know there's not much that goes with that.
I agree.
It's interesting you bring him back to relevance, because I don't disagree with it, and I wonder if he'll get the credit that belongs with that.
Should.
Because I think the person that will get the credit for that more before you turn to Brady Cook will be Drink.
I think Burden.
And Burden. Those two would be the two that I think would slot in ahead of him.
Sure.
Because you
Which
had
is fair. It's those three. Those three were the figureheads of what's happened over the last 2 years.
And you have more knowledge on Mizzou past than I do, but it is interesting of bringing them back to relevance, because I don't know if he's going to get the credit he deserves for that, even though I don't think he belongs as like an all-time great quarterback at Mizzou. I think he's always going to be classified as a good quarterback.
No doubt.
This was the year where he had the opportunity to get there, right? If he gets Mizzou to the playoff, and he dealt with injuries, and honestly, it didn't really click this year, but he's an interesting case study.
Yeah, it reminds me of Franklin. Nobody considers Franklin to be an all-time great Mizzou quarterback.
I didn't know who you were talking about. I thought you were talking about the head coach at Penn State. I was like, he played for
James
Mizzou?
Franklin highlights. James Franklin was awesome in his time. Yeah. Like, he was a battering ram at first, and then he became like just a really successful quarterback. Mobile, kind of like Cook, but bigger, big dude. Frank the Tank was his nickname in his time at Missouri.
Old school, man.
He was a really, really good quarterback, but people don't remember him as much because Matty Mock ended up taking over. Everybody wanted Matty Mock, much like with Brady Cook. People were clamoring for the backup, and then Matty Mock became the starter the next year. Yes, they ended up in the SEC championship game again, but that was not the same offense as it was with James Franklin. So, anyways, got some long thoughts.
Is that what's going to happen with Sam Horn next year? He's going to get Mizzou to the SEC championship game?
I don't think so. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. Last one here. Guys, how good were the three of you at sports? My guess is all of you were terrible.
Whoa!
Growing up, I was fine. And then got to high school, and everybody else got better and bigger and faster and stronger. And I was like, whoa, my future is very much not playing sports, but talking about them. Yeah. So I played for my football team. I was very much a role player. I was like we were a run-first offense. We had a very good running back. He was a 4-star recruit. I was a run-blocking tight end.
Yeah.
So
basketball was my best sport up until high school, and I think it was my sophomore year, like BK said, where freshman I was like, oh, I can at least play with these guys, and then the next year, like, everybody developed, and I'm like, oh, you're still a little scrawny dude that can't compete, and I said, playing sports not it for me anymore.
T-Bone was the best athlete of the three of us.
T-Bone was an Olympian.
And what's funny about that is now I am the most out of shape of the three of us. But
that's true.
Very true.
I was fine at the other sports I played, but the sport that I was best at was tennis. And then I was really good for Southern Illinois because that was the area that my school dominated in. And got to the state tournament my senior year over in Illinois, and then went and played a year in college before the COVID happened, and then got rid of my sophomore season.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to play a game of More Likely to Happen. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. But next, college football playoff rankings were revealed last night. They left us some breadcrumbs on which teams have the best path to the playoffs. Who are the teams that are on the outside looking in that can still get in with a good week? We'll tell you next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. The college football playoff rankings were revealed last night. Alex, there weren't any huge surprises to me, but it did leave us some breadcrumbs on who can still potentially get into the playoff. Oregon was ranked number 1, and then from there, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, as we all suspected. Notre Dame slots in at number 5. Miami at number 6, Georgia 7, Tennessee 8. Those are the SEC teams almost guaranteed to get in right now as long as they don't hit a speed bump this weekend. And then that's where it gets a little more interesting. SMU at 9 in the ACC. I think SMU is going to get in, barring something unforeseen. Indiana at 10. They just have to take care of business on Saturday against Purdue, and they're in at 11-1. That was one of the biggest things that we learned last night. Boise State at 11, if they take care of business the rest of the way, they're in, and they likely get a bye because the Big 12 was pushed down so far. Arizona State was the top Big 12 team at 16th overall. They are unlikely to be able to build up a resume that will beat Boise State's as long as Boise takes care of business. So, boom, there's your 4th team with a bye. And then Clemson was your 12th ranked team as of today, the final team potentially getting in. On the outside looking in my opinion, this is where things got really interesting. 3 SEC teams. Bama at 13, Ole Miss at 14, and South Carolina at 15. And then you've got a bunch of Big 12 teams. Arizona State at 16, Iowa State at 18, BYU at 19, Texas A&M and Mizzou at 20, 21, and then T-Bones Illini are coming in at 23.
Hell yeah.
Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from what we learned yesterday during the reveal?
So some of it's kind of a two-parter for me because the SEC side of this, when it comes to Alabama, I think they're going to need a lot of chaos in terms of upsets this next week if they want to even be in the conversation of getting in. But, man, the main thing was looking at the ACC and thinking, man, they've put themselves in a really good position. In terms of the ACC champion and then the runner-up, it kind of seems like those two, I don't want to say guaranteed spots, but it sure feels like you're going to see 2 ACC teams get in. And then if you get Clemson taking down South Carolina this weekend, is there a shot of 3 ACC teams being in this college football playoffs to where we started the year talking 5 SEC teams?
3 ACC.
3 ACC in terms of
you would need a shocker. You would need Indiana to lose. If Indiana loses, Clemson
Purdue?
beats South Carolina, then there's your path to 3 ACC teams.
And even then, I don't know, man.
The team that I find interesting, to your point on the ACC, I do think they are locked in for 2 teams. Now,
most likely.
I think where it gets interesting is if Miami ends up losing the conference championship, I think Miami still is safe because they have slotted in them ahead of 2 two-loss SEC teams.
Right.
I think they are safe. SMU loses in the championship game. I think they basically swap with Clemson.
Agreed.
If Clemson ends up taking care of business against South Carolina. I think they're locked into 2.
So you get 2 of them for sure.
I think it's an outside shot for theory. I don't think it's very likely at all. But it's possible technically because Clemson was ranked so high. This is the spot to me I find most interesting. And T-Bone and I disagree on this. And I think it's going to be the biggest talking point heading into this weekend. South Carolina's at 15. They are currently behind Alabama, Ole Miss, and Clemson. Those 3 teams in front of them for a potential spot in the playoff. They lost to 2 of them. Alabama, Ole Miss beat South Carolina head-to-head. South Carolina plays against Clemson on Saturday, Alex. That's the last game of the year for South Carolina. If South Carolina wins that game, they will certainly jump Clemson. There's no doubt about that. I believe they would jump Bama and Ole Miss because right now they're crunched together. It's clear the committee views them, in my eyes, as being very close to one another. If you get another win, and in this scenario South Carolina would, that is a high quality. Clemson would probably be ranked 18th, 20th, something like that. Still a top 25 team in the country despite losing this weekend. That builds your resume. There is not that same opportunity for Bama or Ole Miss to do so. Bama plays Auburn, Ole Miss plays Mississippi State. Those are not going to be resume-building wins. They'll just simply be another week of doing what you've already done, showing that you're a good team. So South Carolina would have a resume builder. They would at that point have wins already over Texas A&M, Missouri, and Clemson, all top 25 teams potentially by the end of the season. I think South Carolina potentially gets in. I know that sounds crazy today, but at 9-3, having beaten Clemson this upcoming weekend, they would have a path to be able to get in. Do you guys agree with that? Or do you disagree? Do you think they would be able to jump Clemson, Alabama, and Ole Miss to give themselves a shot? It's potentially still outside looking in, but a shot.
I don't. I think they need all three of those teams. I think they need to beat Clemson, and I think they need Bama and Ole Miss to lose this weekend. Because, I mean, you already look at, like, the resume for Ole Miss. There's a fair argument to be had currently. South Carolina has a better resume, right? They've got the win against Texas A&M. They've got a win against Missouri. So that's 2 top 25 wins.
I don't think so.
Ole Miss only has 1, and that is against Georgia.
That's the best win, though, and they beat head-to-head South Carolina. South Carolina is also
so right there, that tells me that it is probably going to still remain the edge for South Carolina, because though Clemson is a big win, it's still not as good as beating Georgia. And I think the committee is looking at this and going, you don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker with them, and you don't have a better win than them. Even though you might have more wins, you still don't have a better win than them. I think what the committee showed you with this of laying out the breadcrumbs was, yeah, South Carolina needs Alabama and Ole Miss to lose because they've lost head-to-head with them, and both those teams have wins against Georgia, which is better than whatever their 2 best wins could ultimately end up being.
But do they look at those LSU and Alabama losses and say, what was it, a combined 5 points that they lost those 2 games against? Or like those
one of them, their quarterback got hurt in the first half.
And we know that the committee takes into consideration when quarterbacks get injured in certain games from last year.
When have they done that?
I mean, you're right. Like, yes, the head-to-head is better in that circumstance, but you lost to LSU and Alabama by 5 combined points. Those take into consideration.
And it's not a bad loss. It was just a loss of a significant margin, and that was against Ole Miss head-to-head. So that is something the committee should, and I assume will, take into account. I just think South Carolina is a better team right now than Ole Miss. Like, watching these games, I watch the 2 play. I think South Carolina's better. And I look at their resume, and I think at a minimum, they're comparable. I think South Carolina's also might be a little better after this upcoming weekend. So maybe this is just my own bias coming into it, and I'm viewing it through the prism of, like, I think South Carolina's a better team. I think they have the better resume, and therefore I think they should be ranked ahead of Ole Miss. I just think that, yes, I understand Ole Miss right now is ranked ahead of South Carolina. They should be. Right now, South Carolina doesn't have a win this weekend against Clemson. But if and when that were to take place, I think the committee would take that into account and would jump South Carolina over those teams, and you would basically flip Clemson and South Carolina. Here's where things get really difficult, though. What about the Big 12 champion? Because the Big 12 champion would then jump them for that 12th spot, so to speak, to get into the playoff. So they would not only need to win this weekend, have all of what we just discussed happen, they would also need something else to happen that's crazy. Like, they would need Tennessee to lose to Vanderbilt, or they would need, like, Texas A&M to beat Texas this weekend and then lose in the conference championship game, and maybe then that gets you, like, they're going to need some wild stuff to happen.
Or your path as well, like we talked about the ACC. Like, if you beat Clemson, SMU loses to Miami, boom, now the ACC is back down to that 1 spot. But I think these rankings right here told you that the committee still views, even with the upcoming game, that they view, because I think these are, once you get to this week right here where there's 1 week to go, it to me tells you where your path lies. And I think it still tells me that they view South Carolina behind Bama and Ole Miss because they watched Bama and Ole Miss beat them. And I think they view that for this week. I think if they truly believed that if they beat Clemson and you had Bama and Ole Miss win out, I think you would see South Carolina ahead of them, right? I think you would see them, the committee basically telling you, your path is this. You beat Clemson and you need some help from above. I think what they're telling South Carolina with this ranking is you need to beat Clemson and you need to see Bama and Ole Miss lose, and you still need help inside that top 12.
So we disagree on that. But that'll be interesting to see in the reveal next week. All right, the biggest games going into this weekend, teams that have serious pressure with massive implications for the college football playoff. Number 1 on that list, in my opinion, is Tennessee. If Tennessee wins this weekend against Vanderbilt, they are on the road as a 10.5-point favorite at Vandy. They are in. I don't think there's any scenario in which they end up bumping down far enough to where they would be out of the play. Tennessee controls its own destiny, and it's a win and in situation for them this weekend. Clemson is another one. Win this weekend, you put yourself in really good position to potentially be able to get in, because that's another resume-building win against this South Carolina team. Another team that's going under the radar, I believe, I mentioned this during our Circa read, Alex. Notre Dame is on the road at USC as a 7.5-point favorite. And T-Bone, I know you said earlier this week you think USC is terrible. I don't think USC is great. USC has been very good at home this year, though. You look at some of the games that they have played at home. They beat Wisconsin, who's been a solid, if not unspectacular team this year, by 17 at home. They went to overtime against Penn State at home. They beat Rutgers, who your Illini just had real struggles with, by 22 points while they were at home. Beat Nebraska at home. They have not yet lost a home game this season. Really good at home. They lose all ability to play football once they go on the road. So I think that's a game worth monitoring this weekend. I think USC is a live dog in that one. And if Notre Dame loses, it throws everything we just said into chaos.
Notre Dame's out if they lose.
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know what the case would be for them to still be in. You
I don't
have
know
a
what
top
their
20.
case is to be number 5 right now.
They beat Army. You beat an undefeated
But they're
team.
not even in the top 25.
Well, I know, but they were an undefeated team, and I feel like that skyrockets them up. Like, they have nothing on their resume that signifies that team should be that high up.
I mean, in your opinion, should they be ranked today ahead of Miami? Like,
No.
what is the
wouldn't.
differentiating factor between Notre Dame's resume and Miami's
I think
resume?
the only difference right now is they have a top 25 win against A&M. And A&M can fall out of that right away.
yeah.
And that's why I think because I think A&M's losing this weekend. I think they are not beating Texas. So if that's the case, Notre Dame, I think there's a chance Notre Dame gets leapfrogged by Miami, first off. But by the time you get done with the conference championship games, but I think what it tells you is, hey, you lose, now you have 2 bad losses on your resume, right? USC is a bad loss. Even though they're good at home, they are a bad loss. Northern Illinois at home, by the way, that is a awful loss.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they lose. They are gone. They are done. Unless A&M wins, then maybe you get a little bit of that prop up from Texas A&M staying around in that top 25.
And I also feel like the resume for Notre Dame is sexy right now because they're putting up 49, 50 points like consistently. And it's like, oh, my God, look at this offense. But you forget they put 14 points up against Northern Illinois.
All right, a couple other games worth mentioning. Miami is traveling to Syracuse this weekend. Syracuse is a solid team. Their record is better, in my opinion, than what the overall performance has been so far this year. They're 8-3, but if Miami wins, they're very likely going to end up getting in. That's a huge game. And then just like all of the SEC games, throw them into a blender. Yeah. But Alabama at home against Auburn is a huge one. South Carolina, we already mentioned. Ole Miss has a big one against Mississippi State. They should wipe the floor with them, but that's a big one. And then A&M versus Texas is like for all the marbles. If A&M wins that game, they have a path to get into the playoff and disrupt everything. Because if they win that game, they're in the SEC championship game and then potentially get the automatic berth from the SEC, and boom, good luck, committee. Like now everything has been thrown into flux, but those are some of the huge ones. And then T-Bone honed in on the Big 12 as well. K-State versus Iowa State's a massive one, and there's like 4 others with their 27 teams that are up for the potential Big 12 title. It's a awesome week in college football. This is why the 12-team playoff is great.
Suck it, T-Bone!
This week right here. So many games matter, not only locally, but nationally. Because, like, if you're a South Carolina fan, dude, there's like 6 games you got to be paying attention to this weekend. If you're, an Indiana fan, there's a bunch of games that you got to pay attention to. Bama's, Ole Miss, Arizona State. You got to watch the entire Big 12. It's great. Man. It's great.
All those teams just should not be called a playoff.
It's gonna be awesome.
You know I was right.
This is the type of weekend where you just put that Christmas tree up, tell your wife, hey, it's going to take me about 6 hours to put up.
Dude, the next 4 days are like, this is the best extended weekend that we've got. Even better than the tournament, in my opinion. Because you've got college football, you've got the NFL. There's so much going on.
This is better than the tournament.
Plus the holidays, because you got all the food that people love. That
there's
I think
some
is
crazy stuff that happens.
Well,
in that
me
tournament.
personally, it's better than the tournament, so I don't have to spend time with him.
Well, that's fair. You know, I changed my mind.
That is a good point. Alton's pretty tough to beat. I don't know. Do I prefer Alton or being with family for Thanksgiving with the meals? I don't know, man. It's close. It's close.
You prefer us over your family? Come on, man.
I like hanging out with you guys. I know that it's not reciprocated.
That's only a one-way street.
Coming up next, more likely to happen here on 101 ESPN. He's Alex Esteban. I'm BK. BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. A Thanksgiving Eve here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Alex will have some dad jokes.
Yeah! It's the holiday season, T-Bone.
Some of you guys will be excited about that.
Most of you will hate
disappointed. I fall somewhere in between. I don't really know how to feel about it.
I hate it.
Yeah, T-Bone despises it.
It's a
I'd rather tell a story about
discussion.
What's his name from Oklahoma going to Taco Bell and spending $100 there.
You know what?
Let's Taco Bell. Congratulations.
Let's let the listeners.
What?
If you spend $100 in Taco Bell, you own it.
Yeah.
That branch is now yours.
Let's let the listeners decide. Do they want T-Bone's junk drawer?
Absolutely.
Or do they want Thanksgiving dad jokes? 314-399-9646.
We're doing dad jokes. All right.
Suck it.
T-Bone just told the story. We appreciate you.
Executive decision. Boy, let's bring that up on air.
314-399-9646 is
He's
the
our
comfort
fearless
service
leader.
text line. You give us two scenarios to tell you which
Wonders
one
why we don't like
is more likely. All right, let's start out with this, boys. More likely to make the playoffs this year. The San Francisco 49ers or the Miami Dolphins?
Oh, Miami Dolphins. I don't trust San Francisco anymore. I don't know if I trust Miami, but at least they look more competent on the offensive side. San Francisco doesn't do anything good right now. McCaffrey's not dangerous. Their defense isn't very good, although their defense didn't have basically their entire line. I think there's an easier path for the 49ers, but I think the Dolphins will be the better team down the stretch.
Yeah, I'll go Dolphins as well. They're playing some pretty good football now, and I kind of thought that they would get back into this conversation once Tua came back and he got some of the rust knocked off. I think I'm going with Miami. San Fran, their schedule is hard. They're dealing with a ton of injuries still. I think it's the Dolphins.
I think it's the Dolphins as well. I don't feel good about them. I don't think they're likely to get into the postseason just because I think they're losing tomorrow. I think they're losing against Houston on the road. And I think there's a decent chance that they lose against San Francisco if Brock Purdy's back in that game. But the AFC is just more wide open. And the 49ers have none of the tiebreakers that they're going to end up needing. So I think it's a very difficult path for them. Alex, what do you got?
Guys, more likely to happen. Philip Broberg leads the defenseman in points at the end of the season, or Jim Montgomery gets a Coach of the Year award at the end of the season.
What was the first one again?
When you say
in the
defense,
conversation.
you're talking about on the Blues.
On the Blues, not in the NHL. On the Blues.
This is a fun one.
Or Jim Montgomery earns Coach of the Year votes.
I think it's Broberg. Broberg's at 9 points right now. The only defenseman currently on the team with more is Parayko with 12, and he's done that in literally twice the number of games. So I'll go Broberg.
Here's something that it's a tinfoil before you answer, T-Bone. They've used Justin Falk a lot on this power play, mainly for that one-timer. They've used Robert Thomas on the power play up top. God, Kadarius, sir.
Yes, 1 goal and 5 points on the year.
When Broberg gets back and gets up to speed, I really wonder if Broberg gets PP1 opportunities.
He should.
Yeah.
It's better than Falk.
True. I'll say it's more likely it's Broberg, though I could see where Monty ends up with votes, but I think they've got to make the playoffs to get there, and I'm still skeptical if this is a playoff team, so I'll say it is more likely that it is Broberg.
Mine's Broberg. I think you could be talking about a guy who, depending on how good he looks when he gets back and how long it takes him to ramp back up, I think you could be talking about a guy who gets closer to 35, 40 points.
T-Bone?
Guys, more likely to be the team that could prevent the Lions from getting to the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles or the Green Bay Packers?
Eagles.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but the Lions have been good against the run.
Wait, did you say that again?
Prevent them from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, prevent them from getting to the Super Bowl.
Okay, so the team most likely to get to the Super Bowl. I think Eagles. I like the Packers. They were my preseason pick to get to the Super Bowl. They've just got too many warts. That defense I don't trust in a big spot. I think it's the Eagles. They've just got such unbelievable talent on the offensive side of the ball.
That's kind of where I'm at, too. I don't trust Sirianni, though, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards the Packers.
I'm with you on that.
If you got Saquon playing the way that he does and Jalen Hurts, who can at least heave the ball for you, it's going to be tough for Detroit. I don't think either of these teams have a chance, but I would put more money on the Eagles than I would the Packers.
Yeah, I think I would go Eagles as well. And I think they're the team that could cause the most havoc on Jared Goff because their pass rush, though Graham is a big injury, I can see where they can cause some havoc up the middle with their tackles. And if that's the case, now you kind of get Goff moving. That's when he gets uncomfortable. And I can see where they can game plan to try and slow him down enough. So I would say Eagles as well.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. The YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. If you guys have a scenario for more likely to happen, you give us 2 scenarios, we'll tell you which one is more likely. From the 618, guys, more likely to happen, Arenado is traded this offseason or the Blues make the postseason this year. I think it's more likely that Arenado is traded, personally.
I think it's more likely the Blues make the postseason. I don't think Arenado's going to get traded.
Really?
I think it all sounds great, and Arenado's willing to listen, but I just don't think they're going to be able to get this complicated deal done.
What changed in the last 24 hours? Because yesterday you were
I didn't know.
on the side, right?
I think it's a possibility, but I've always never believed it's going to happen. I think it's just too complicated.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility Arenado gets traded. I am more skeptical of the Blues making the playoffs, so I will say Arenado gets traded.
More likely from the 314, Blues add a rental or a core piece at the trade deadline?
Core piece. They're not adding a rental. There will be no rental that the Blues bring in. There's no point. You don't need a rental.
I just don't know who the rentals are that are potentially available that really change anything, and I don't think Army is just giving up an asset for it's something that you already have.
I do think if there was a good rental out there to help fill a void, to help you get to the playoffs, to me that would make sense. Because if we're talking about like, hey, this team needs
number 2 center.
Exactly. And if you're saying, hey, this team needs to make the playoffs, sure, I'm giving up an asset for a rental, but it's not like I'm blocking anything from the future. So that's why I think a rental, there is a case that it makes sense, but I am leaning more towards the side of it would be to bring in a core piece, just because you're right. I don't know if there's a rental out there that makes sense for the Blues.
I don't, unless this, discretionary, the rental is somebody that they could re-sign, I don't see them bringing in somebody, because most of the time these rentals are guys that are older in age that need to go out there and have one good year. Like Jake Gensel, for example. Not older in age, but you knew he was going to be signing a long-term contract, and you thought it was going to be with the team that he was traded to.
I'm thinking more somebody like Adam Henrique. Like in that vein of solid middle six center.
I think if I'm the Blues, I would much rather just put Dvorsky at the end of the season in that spot than Adam Henrique.
If he's ready. If he's not ready, then you're going to need, if you believe yourself to be a legit playoff team, I think the Blues are probably going to need a second-line center by the end of the year. And in that scenario, if Dvorsky's not ready, I'd be totally fine with them giving up a late-round pick.
Here's the one that I was discretionary. When you say rental, somebody's going to say, Trent Frederick, that's a rental. He's a UFA after this year. Now, that's somebody that I wouldn't even view as a rental, because if you're trading for that guy, he's probably a part of your team moving forward. That's the type of move that I could see them do if it was a rental. I don't see them going after somebody who's 36 years old. I think they got those guys already on their team.
But to your point on Dvorsky, I think, to me, there's a caveat into, is he ready? Sure, he might be NHL ready. He will not be number 2 centerman ready at the NHL level.
No.
And that's why, to me, if the playoffs is the goal stated by the organization, and again, that is now, as we talked about yesterday on the show, that is now how I am viewing this team of, hey, they need to make the playoffs. Okay, Dvorsky's not that guy for me, so you probably do need to find somebody that is a rental if you're going to try and get into the playoffs, if that's your biggest need, which I'd be shocked if it isn't.
I just don't know if a number 2 center is going to be available that would be a rental.
Here's one for you. Michael Granlund. He's 33 years old. He's making $5 million. He's a guy that gets you 50 points a year on average, typically. He's not great, but he can play legit minutes for you. And he's been playing 20 minutes a night for San Jose. He's probably going to be traded by the end of the season. I don't know if that's somebody that the Blues would for sure go out there and acquire. Probably not. Yeah. But he is somebody that kind of fits into the criteria that we're talking about here, Alex. He wins face-offs. He plays the position.
Totally. I mean,
it's such a Steven Matz reaction of,
it's fine. I look at that.
He's solid.
He's solid, but I mean, I look at that depending on how Schen's playing at the time. I think that would come in and be a third-line centerman for you.
Maybe, but I think you could put him as a second-line center, Schenn as the third-line center, or flip them. I don't really care. And then now you don't have one of Faksa or Sonny in your top 9. Yeah. That's really, you're bumping everybody down a spot, and now Sonny's probably playing the wing with Torpo and Faksa. Now you've got a real fourth-line physical presence out there. I don't know. I think that's something that they would potentially consider. We're getting way out over our skis here, but if we're talking about more likely to happen, I think it's more likely they trade for one of those guys. core pieces just so rarely get traded at the deadline, man. It's so rare.
Yeah, core pieces get traded between now and the deadline. They don't get traded at the deadline.
Or in June or July. He's Alex. It's T-Bone on BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, Alex has your dad jokes.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
But next, time for our football pick'em, the final week of our pick'em, and there's every game is on the board. Between now and when we get back on the air on Monday, there are a ton of games to select. Everything is on the line for myself and for Alex Ferrario. I'm up by 1 point in our pick'em challenge, and we'll get to our picks for this week coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here at a Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues visit the Devils tonight. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 6. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it is time for our football pick'em. We do this each and every week on BK and Ferrario. We do it for a month, and then we have somebody get punished, and then we start it over again the next month. Month number 1, Tanner Hendrickson was punished.
What?
No, he wasn't. Alex
That's not
Ferrario
true.
was
Month
punished.
number 1, Alex Ferrario was punished. Month number 2, yours truly was punished. Month number 3, it's going to be one of me or Alex that is
It won't
punished
be
once
T-Bone.
again.
I don't remember being punished. I've been pretty good at this
You're
this
going to
year.
get the last one. Don't
T-Bone
worry,
has
buddy.
14 points. He's on a heater, 7-2 through the first 3 weeks of our pick'em. I have 9 points, 4-5 overall. Alex has 8 points at 4-5. Those money balls, man, the 3-point plays are huge. This is the final week of this month, so it's a big one. T-Bone, what do you have as your 1-point play heading into this extended weekend?
Well, we debated a lot about this in one of our earlier segments at 12 o'clock, talking about the college football rankings, and I think the debate will continue into next week because my 1-point play, I think South Carolina is a better football team than Clemson. I think they will cover. I think they will win outright. So give me South Carolina plus 2.5 as they go on the road to take on Clemson.
Alex, you're coming up next.
Oh, I thought you had thoughts on that possibly.
I like South Carolina to win outright. I think they're the better team. So I like that play.
I wouldn't feel good about that one.
I will say on the road is what trips me up a little bit. I would have liked it more at 3.5, but you're not going to get that. They're not going to give you that hook. But yeah, I mean, they're a live dog on the road.
I can go 0-3, and the odds of
that's
you
true.
two
Exactly
going
true.
3-0 is very unlikely.
that was a BK comment right there. All right, well, does this not surprise anybody because my college has been 0 for this season? I'm sticking in the NFL.
Good.
And I'm going to a matchup where you got two of the best rushing offenses going head-to-head. I'm taking the Eagles plus 3. I know it's on the road, and I know Baltimore is always a dangerous team, but I think this one is going to be one of these tight games. This is going to be one of those Philadelphia Eagles to where it's like, oh, shoot, this team might actually be good. And the Ravens continue to give up a ton of passing yards. I think it's like over 300 in the last 5 games passing yards that they've given up.
That doesn't surprise me.
So Baltimore's defense in the secondary might allow Jalen Hurts to have a little success. So Eagles plus 3, my 1-point play.
Man, I love that game. I have no idea what to expect.
That's why I avoided it.
The Ravens are so much better coached than the Eagles are. But I think the Eagles are the better football team. Like when I watch the two on the field, I think that the talent discrepancy is pretty significant, in my opinion, in favor of the Eagles. So I just don't know how that's going to play out. And the fact that it's in Baltimore also makes me nervous. So I didn't want to touch it, but I think it's my favorite game of the week.
Eagles are the second best team in terms of passing yards allowed per game. They're only allowing about 197. So basically, Derrick Henry or the offense for Philadelphia beyond Saquon Barkley.
They also play a ton of zone, which makes it more difficult for Lamar Jackson to be able to run against them. Typically, you expect against man because the guys will turn their back to the quarterback. That's where you get the big rushing days for Lamar. So it's going to have to be a huge Derrick Henry day if they're going to win. It's a fun game, man. The kind of classic throwback of two teams that lean so heavily on their running backs, but then you add in the element of the running quarterbacks. Really, really fun matchup. I mean, legitimately a potential Super Bowl matchup. Super Bowl preview for us. I like that one. All right, my 1-point play. T-Bone, you cannot bet on this one in the state of Illinois, but I'm taking it anyways. Illinois is a 7.5-point favorite on the road at Northwestern. Northwestern is horrible, man. One of my themes this week is betting on teams that I trust, that have something to play for, even if it is pride. Illinois has a chance. I know T-Bone doesn't care. I promise you that program does, to be able to get to the Citrus Bowl and play against a team like Alabama in freezing-ass December against a good team in Orlando where it's really nice and warm. That's a big payoff for this season. One of the best seasons for Illinois in the last 20 years. They have a chance to cap that off this weekend in a rivalry game, quote unquote, against Northwestern. I like the Illini to win big, multiple scores against Northwestern on the road.
I was too nervous to take that one for the Illini because they've been a little off, I feel like, the last couple of weeks defensively. But my 2-point play, I'm going to jump to the NFL. And, guys, I remember, look, we had a conversation on Monday of, hey, what was one of the biggest surprises? And I said, Bryce Young looked like a real quarterback. I think that reverts back this week. I think Carolina's all excited. We competed with the Chiefs, guys. Look, we competed with the Chiefs.
Which everyone does.
Baker Mayfield's coming to town. He's got his wide receiver Mike Evans back. I think they're going to be able to blow out Carolina. Give me the Bucs -5.5 as they go to Carolina. I think they win this one easily. This one is my favorite 2-point play of the week.
I thought about that one, but, man, it's a line that just scares the hell out of me because I just don't know what the Panthers are right now. So, like, I stayed a little bit away from it.
As a Chiefs fan, you guys know, the Chiefs secondary is not good. The Bucs secondary is even worse.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a really good Bryce Young game here. Now, I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Bucs are the better team. I think they will win by 6, but Bryce Young showed some stuff last week that was real and not just a product of the Chiefs having a bad secondary. I think you'll see another good bounce-back performance by him. Bucs, though, I do think win by 6, so I don't mind the pick.
All right, guys, I'm in the NFL once again. I'm looking at this Chargers-Falcons game. The Chargers coming off of a little bit of a disappointment, and I know they lost J.K. Dobbins, at least for this game. They're going to have Gus Edwards. But, guys, the Falcons are a joke. You want to know why I know that? Because I saw them get shellacked by Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos.
It's a playoff team.
They have not been able to get to the quarterback. I think they have 10 sacks this season, which is the last in the league. Their offense is giving up like 3 touchdowns per game. This is going to be a Justin Herbert show, so I love the Chargers -2.
Boy,
Also like that pick.
Really, his first 2 picks are 4 teams that I don't really have a good. The Philly and Baltimore game, those are good teams, so I just don't. I don't know
got a
who
great
to have
feel
a
for the
sign on.
Falcons.
Falcons
They're
and Chargers.
terrible.
I don't trust either of those teams when it comes to taking them on a spread.
Chargers defense has been great all season long.
I'm worried about
Chargers,
you so far.
Justin Herbert. Nah, man, I'm feeling good about
Here
that
are
one.
the Falcons' wins since week 2. The Saints twice. Excuse me, the Saints, and they lost to the Saints once. Jeez. The Buccaneers in overtime, the Carolina Panthers, the Buccaneers again in a 1-score game, and the Dallas Cowboys. End of list.
Yeah.
That team doesn't win games.
No.
Like the classic, they are the Cincinnati Bengals of the NFC.
Yeah. I'll be sitting pretty at halftime.
You're going to love what the numbers are. You're going to feel really good about the fact that they put up 400 yards of total offense, and then you'll wonder, why'd they only score 24? That doesn't make sense to me. And they lose the game 27-24. I like the Chargers in that one as well. All right. My 2-point play is another college football game, going back to the idea that you need teams that you know are good with something to play for against teams that have punted on the season. T-Bone, you went against this team last week. Couldn't have worked out better for you. I am going with Indiana -28 points against Purdue. Indiana has everything to play for this week. It is their last opportunity to show the committee we're a real team. They are already in, as of today, based on the current rankings. If they win again and they win big against Purdue, it's over. Sayonara. Don't even have to have the conversation about it. Indiana will be in the college football playoff, and they will have earned it. Purdue's horrific, dude. They're thinking about if their coach is getting fired after this game more than they're thinking about what's going to happen if they win it. Indiana -28. They win huge going away against Purdue.
Man, a 28-point spread.
I like it, though.
I think it could be 35, and I would consider it.
Indiana's killed everybody that's not a good football team, and Purdue is not that, even though, again, somehow they kept it close with Illinois. My 3-point play this week, guys, I'm going back to the college game. And, you know, this program used to be one that would always hang around. They were like a 9-win team. You know, they were business in the front, party in the back with a nice little mullet going on with Gundy at Oklahoma State, home of the Cowboys. And, well, just like the actual Cowboys in Dallas, this team stinks. And they are taking on Colorado, who still has stuff to play for this weekend. Cool. Guys, Oklahoma State has given up 30-plus points in 8 of their 11 games this season. They have given up 38-plus points in 7 straight. Colorado can put up points. Colorado, give me them -16.5 at home against Oklahoma State.
I have a real fear that Colorado, after last week, has nothing to play for. that scares the hell out of me in a game like this. Now, it's at home, senior day, you'll have the whole thing. But that is my one concern about a game like this, is when you've got a team that just lost everything that they had to play for last week. That's my fear.
Blowout in Colorado.
I don't really care about T-Bone. All I care about is BK in this one. So, boys, my 3-point play.
You could go 0-3.
Yeah, like you guys are going 3-0.
Like I'm going 3-0. I'm gonna be
Done
sitting
it yet this year.
I'm gonna be sitting fat and happy at about 3:00 in the afternoon on Thursday, boys. Because I'm taking the Lions minus 9.5.
Wow.
I know it's a Thanksgiving game.
That line, by the way, has really gone down because it started at 11.
Chicago is feeling great. Caleb Williams. Oh, look at what we just did. You're going up against a brick wall. You know how many passing touchdowns the Lions have given up in the last 4 games?
0.
1.
Oh, dang.
And you know
And
what?
their run defense is somehow even better.
And their run defense is sensational. You know how many touchdowns the Bears have given up rushing-wise this season?
Enough.
The 7th most in 12. And they're going up against Gibbs, David Montgomery, that offense. It's a home game for the Lions. I think this one's going to be easy. I'm going to let Dan Campbell take care of me on Thanksgiving Day.
You know what's funny? I almost took the Bears on the points for my 1-point play.
Yeah.
Because Thursday games are weird. They've got a new offensive coordinator who's only done things for, I think it's 2 weeks now, and the offense has been looking better. I actually kind of like the Bears on the points in that one.
Don't like either of these sides. If I'm going to take something in this game, I'd probably take the over 48.5. But otherwise, I'm staying away from it. The spread feels right to me, somewhere around there, 10 points in one direction. So yeah, I would stay away from it. But I am going with the Turkey Day game as well.
Oh, God.
boy.
You're going with the one that I did not want to touch.
I'm surprised neither of you went with it. Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins coming up to Green Bay in Lambeau at night when it's going to be like 25 degrees outside. Dude, I cannot believe that I am alone in taking this game. You remember what it was like when they traveled to Kansas City? None of
Fair, it
them
was like
wanted to be there.
30.
Yeah, well, this is going to be gross outside, too. Potential for some snow, nasty weather outside. Dude, that's what Green Bay lives for. Josh Jacobs running it down their throat. The Dolphins trying to get all this speed element on that grass. Good luck, dude. Packers win this one by 10. They end up feeling good about themselves after the game. The Dolphins are left wondering, what could have been this season. Green Bay minus the 3.5 points at home in a cold game against the Dolphins.
This one scared the hell out of me because the Packers secondary has been giving up bursts of touchdowns. I think it's what? I read it was over 70-yard touchdowns twice in their last 4 games. You want to scream breakout offensive game, even if it is cold. And I'm with you. That's why I was like, oh, this should be easy because it's supposed to snow in this game.
Yeah.
But, man.
I kind of like that pick. I leaned both ways. That's why I avoided it, because I did think about it. Because the Dolphins, we've seen they don't swim well once they get past South Florida.
They're done. Done. Wow. Coming up next. How you guys feeling, by the way?
I hate all
whatever.
of this.
I don't want. Alex, how you feeling?
I hate this.
See, I feel like I'm going to go 3-0.
I felt fine.
I think it's a 2-in-1 week for me.
I felt very confident when I put these down on paper last night. And now that I said them out loud, I'm like, oh, jeez.
What do you think, Alex? Race to 12 for us, most likely? Whoever gets to 12 ends up winning it?
I feel good about my 3 and my 2-point play. I don't feel good about the 1 point, but frankly, I don't think the 1 point's really going to matter. It's going to come down to me getting that 3 and you getting your 3.
All right, whether you guys want to fade or follow those picks, you can do exactly that on the Circus Sports app in the state of Illinois. We will have our pick'em reveal on Monday here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, Alex has some dad jokes for you in the junk drawer. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, let's dive into the junk drawer. All right, Alex.
Get ready, boys.
Let's make this worth our while.
What?
These
These
are
are
we got today?
always worth your while. These are great. It's a holiday, and so you need to laugh a little bit.
Your last dad jokes on the last holiday, I think Halloween, were not very
Are
good.
you kidding me? I got BK to laugh at least 3 times on that one. Ryder loves these, by the way. Boys, let's go a little Thanksgiving theme on all of you.
I've got one from the text line if you want to get us
Hit me
warmed
with
up.
it. Yeah, warm me up.
From
Text
the
line loves it, too.
314. Here's a dad joke for you. I made a playlist for hiking. It has music from Peanuts, the Cranberries, and Eminem. I call it my trail mix.
Now, that's some good stuff right there. T-Bone, you should love that, man. You love hiking.
That's well done.
You love walking.
That was bad.
All right, well, let's go back in because the text line obviously loves this.
Mix, they're going hiking.
Yeah.
The Peanuts is a weird one. What are you listening to on the Peanuts? It's just like
a
one
joke.
song from the Peanuts?
Don't think about it too hard.
Okay, cool.
Dun, 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 dun,
Guys, why did the cranberry blush?
Oh, boy.
Because it saw the turkey dressing. Off the first one, boys.
That was decent. Can we get some? There we go. Yeah.
What do you guys need to make Thanksgiving s'mores?
What do you got, Alex?
Some Pilgrims. Like graham crackers. I thought that one was pretty good.
No.
What did the Thanksgiving turkey say to the Christmas ham?
I have no idea.
Nice to meet you.
No, that one's not good.
That one was stupid. He got to do better. Come on, up your game. Let's go. Let's go, Alex. Let's go. You got this. This next one's going to be the one. Let's go.
What's blue and covered in feathers?
Blue and covered in feather. I have no idea.
A turkey holding its breath.
I can't believe that one got beat.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Normally
Normally,
I don't eat this much food.
No, that one was bad.
My 3-year-old would have thought that one was funny.
That one was not only bad. That one was just.
What did the ocean say when it saw the Mayflower crossing? You know Mayflower, right?
Yeah.
He went to school.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Well, what
he's
did the
familiar.
ocean say when it saw the Mayflower crossing?
God only knows.
Nothing. It just waved.
All right. Okay.
Did you hear about the turkey that plays baseball?
No.
He covers first base.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
I got 2 more. If pilgrims traveled on the Mayflower, what do college students travel on?
I have no idea.
A scholarship.
Okay.
That was so much.
I feel like you started out with your best and we worked our way back
so much
down
better
from
than
there.
okay.
Can we get that first one again?
No.
What do you want to repeat?
What did the pilgrim wear to dinner?
What do you do? What do you wear?
A harvest. Fine, one more. What's a pilgrim's favorite
not
dance?
great.
This will get you. What's a pilgrim's favorite dance? Come on, T-Bone.
Give it
Turkey
to me.
leg.
Let's go.
A turkey trot. Go, 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 go. Happy Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. I thought those
What's
were
the only turkey that needs ID?
Please tell me there's not another one from the text
the
line.
text line loves these.
Text line.
I don't know. Text line, what is it?
Wild turkey. You get it? The whiskey is a wild turkey. Needs an ID to get. That's a whole thing. T-Bone, you'll get it one day. He's Alex with T-Bone on BK. We got to up our game on those for Christmas.
What are you talking about?
No,
those
we're
were
gonna-
great.
That was
Would
like a
not do it.
6 out of 10 performance.
Oh, I give it a 7.5. Not
You
my
think?
best,
I
but
do think they
Thanksgiving's
were-
tough, man. You only got a
Yeah.
couple of things.
I do think they were better than Halloween. I thought the Halloween ones were bad.
I thought Halloween was good. This is better.
They were so bad, BK can't even think of one that you said.
I feel like we'll be better next time. We'll be better.
I vote that we get rid of this.
The text line prefers it.
I don't think.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into our weekend look ahead for the NFL slate. But next, has the game changed with roster building in this version of the National League? How the hell are other teams supposed to compete with the likes of the Dodgers and the Mets? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. You hear me talk about it all the time off of Chippewa. Well, now is the time of year to get out there because the Christmas trees are up this Friday. And of course, if you're like me, you don't put the Christmas decorations out until Black Friday. And so you got to get to Ted Drew's famous frozen custard, walk through their parking lot filled with different trees, fragrant firs, pine trees available, large trees that are standing over 8 feet tall, and look for the exclusive Dottie trees, which of course is named in honor of Ted's wife. So while you're out there, you can also shop for holiday greenery. They got beautiful wreaths, handmade bows, everything you need to decorate the home for the holiday season. And a limited time offer while you're out there, you could buy 3 quarts of Ted Drew's famous frozen custard and you get a jumbo container of toppings for free. And that's valid all the way up until December 30th. So make sure you get out there, build those family traditions, not just with the frozen custard, but shopping for Christmas trees as well off of Chippewa. Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. It really is good, guys and gals.
If you're a National League team right now, how the hell are you supposed to compete with the likes of the LA Dodgers and the New York Mets? The Mets, as of today, are scheduled to spend $159 million on their payroll for next season. Guys, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think it's going to stay that way. I think there's a pretty good chance that they end up with Juan Soto, and that'll be, what do you think, 50, 60 million bucks on an AAV basis?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
So that's just with him. You're at $210 million, let's say, going into next season. That would put them in the top 4 in all of Major League Baseball in spending. That's without adding a single other free agent to the roster. The Mets and the Dodgers will very likely both be at or above $250 million in payroll next year. The Cardinals, for context, are at $140 right now.
I bet that one won't go up that much.
The Cubs are 10th in Major League Baseball at $170.
Jeez. That's 10th in Major League Baseball.
And they sound like they're not going up either.
Yeah, Alex, if you're one of these teams, how do you go about trying to compete with the Dodgers, the Mets, the Phillies, who are spending $260 million right now and are apparently willing to just spend all of the money to continue to improve? What do? You
do the old Cardinals mentality of getting into the playoffs and anything can happen. You hope that injuries take place throughout the season that disrupts the postseason. There's no building a roster to compete with these teams. There's no building a pitching staff that can handle a Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and then if they just go out there and get Juan Soto. And there's no ability to go out there and just trade and sign free agents to build an offense against them. I think what you have to do is you build your team as a get to the playoffs and see what takes place. But I also think you have to have an emphasis on youth if you're going to build. There can't be an emphasis on going out there and spending. There's going to have to be an emphasis on finding the right types of players through draft and develop. And then when you feel like you're ready, you go out there and you get that one missing piece.
I think that there can be lessons learned from the way the Dodgers are building right now. Think about what the latest signing was by the LA Dodgers, right? It wasn't going out there and adding to an offense. Now, granted, their offense is loaded with their top 3 guys. But what are they doing? And what have they been kind of laying out the breadcrumbs to do for the last 2-3 seasons?
Chasing strikeouts
And chasing arms. That's the way you compete with the Dodgers, in my mind, is you have to have pitching. And whether that means it's young and developed, and then maybe you add in one guy in free agency to help you out. If the Cardinals had their young arms, pitching, maybe they would be interested like Max Fried. He feels like a perfect Cardinal, right? That's the way, to me, you're going to go about it. It's truly a arms race because that's what the Dodgers are doing, right? They're not really worried about their offense because they know, though their offense will help them win a World Series, pitching's the thing that will do it, right? That is the thing that helps you win in October, is having strikeouts, having a great bullpen, and having guys that can take the ball and just shove for 5 or 6 innings as a starter. I think that's kind of the part of the Dodgers formula that you have to implement if you're going to beat the Dodgers, because it's going to be tough sledding to hit Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, all those guys. So what do you got to do? You've got to keep the game close until you get to the bullpen game. That's why I think it's about adding to your pitching, adding strikeouts, because you're not going to be able to build an offense that's going to beat the Dodgers pitching. You've got to build a rotation and a bullpen that can slow down the Dodgers offense and give yourself a shot.
And then just hope that baseball's weird randomness can go in your direction, right? Last year, you look at some of the players that came through in big situations. I like Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman's a really good baseball player. Tommy Edman had a unbelievable 2-week stretch, and that was enough to carry the Dodgers offense during that 2-week stretch, where Shohei Ohtani didn't really show up for the World Series, in part because he was hurt, but Freddie Freeman, who's an amazing baseball player, went on this just scorched earth. We've seen this before. Lucas Duda went through this crazy 3-week stretch where he was one of the best players in the world. That can happen offensively. It's not very often that you see that with pitchers. You'll see that with a bullpen arm here and there where they emerge in the postseason, like Luke Weaver this year. But with starting pitchers, it's typically hey, your dominant starters are your dominant starters when you get to the postseason. And you need those guys to show up in a big way. And if they don't, well, you're screwed. So I do agree with that, T-Bone. I also say, you can't compare your team on paper to the Dodgers and the Mets when you walk into the season. Or even in that regard, probably the Phillies. And the reason why is because you're not going to be able to compare to those teams. You're not. The Cardinals, whatever happens through this retool, it's going to be really hard for me to imagine a scenario in the next 5 years where we go into the season and say, on paper, the Cardinals can match blow for blow with the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Mets. I don't think it's going to happen. But through attrition and through the randomness of baseball, we could get to October and say, Cardinals in a 5-game series could beat the Dodgers. I wouldn't pick them, but they could find a way to do it. I think that's going to be how this has to be moving forward, man. I don't know how you can convince yourself otherwise. The Cardinals aren't going to make a move this offseason or next offseason or the offseason beyond that, or you're going to be able to look at their offense and say, man, could probably go up against Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Will Smith and feel good about it, and whoever else they end up adding. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. I mean, if you're just for the Cardinals' purposes, there's no thinking about the Dodgers. It's just Dodgers will do their own thing, let them win 140 games in the season, and we'll worry about that when it gets to the postseason. Because if you are the Cardinals, you look at that and you say, yeah, but that's probably going to break at some point.
That's the hope.
Yeah, and as a team, how do you build? Well, you go about your business and say, well, our goal is to be a playoff team. Our goal is to win our division. Because, T-Bone, you're the one that says this all the time. Anything can happen in the postseason. So, I'm not worried about how am I going to take this team down to get to a World Series. I'm more worried about how do I continue to develop my roster accordingly to get to the postseason, and then we'll figure things out from there. Because the only teams that are focusing on how do we build to beat the Dodgers in the regular season or in the postseason are teams that believe they have a World Series shot, like the Phillies, like the New York Mets.
All right, so We're all in agreement there. The Dodgers just added Blake Snell. And by the way, that's why reason we're having this conversation. If you missed the news that the Dodgers signed Blake Snell to a massive 5-year contract with some deferred money, it's insane.
That's after Thanksgiving.
Oh, sorry.
The Dodgers now have Blake Snell and Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani and Tyler Glass now.
And
Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May and potentially Clayton Kershaw.
And Roki Sasaki probably.
Yep.
Yeah. Hell, and Burns.
Bobby Miller is just kind of sitting there. If you guys remember, Bobby Miller is that young pitcher that they had that absolutely shredded the Cardinals because he was throwing 98, dotting it up, and then suddenly couldn't throw strikes after that game.
And then we found out that wasn't Bobby Miller. That was just the Cardinals.
And Bobby Miller had some serious command issues this year, but has been one of the top prospects in Major League Baseball, and the dude's stuff is unquestionable. It's just a matter of, can he throw it for strikes? Can he find his way back into the zone, and can he overcome some of the injuries that he's had? If they decide this offseason to try to improve their offense through trading Bobby Miller or through improve their closing situation by trading Bobby Miller, we've mentioned the Phillies as a potential landing spot for the Cardinals in trades. I do wonder if they emerge once again as a potential trade destination for Nolan Arenado. Like the same things that we've been talking about with the Phillies, Bobby Miller is the type of player that I would be targeting from LA now that they have this kind of insane rotation that they've been able to build up. They're probably going to do a 6-man, so they might just want Bobby Miller to be a part of that. It's possible. He's got that upside that we talked about earlier today. But if they want to improve somewhere else, Bobby Miller becomes a pretty clear trade candidate for them. I think Gavin Lux is another guy that they could potentially trade this offseason. I wonder if the Dodgers will dangle him in trade talks moving forward.
If they do, the Cardinals need to be involved with that. I mean, now I could care less about Gavin Lux. Frankly, that's one of
I agree. I'm just
17 guys you already have. But yeah, if Bobby Miller's there, I mean, we're talking Helsley, Arenado, whatever it might be, because that's shooting high there for a Cardinals. That's shooting for something that goes beyond just a middle of the rotation guy. Because again, you saw the swing and miss stuff. If you can tweak the certain areas, I mean, that's a guy that you look at and you say, cool, we'll build around this guy on the pitching side of things. And you gave up something, one, in Nolan Arenado that really didn't have a place for you, and two, Ryan Helsley, that wasn't going to be really worth your time in a couple of years when you're ready to actually win.
I wonder if you could do something like Libby, Helsley, and Arenado for Bobby Miller. Something like that.
I don't know if you got to throw Libby in, too.
And I think it could be all of the money on the Arenado deal because you throw in Libby. And the reason why I would include Libby, I think he could be a great bullpen arm for the Dodgers. Like, you go out there and, hey, we got a left-handed reliever that's
trying to improve the Dodgers, man. We need a great left-handed bullpen arm, too, sir.
I think you could try and convince him to take Steven Matz instead and be like, hey, he could be one of two things for you.
Makes a ton of sense for that.
Yeah, you weren't going to 6-man rotation. It's like, well, this guy, you keep him healthy half the year, he's good to go.
He's also got upside, injury risk. Like, he fits all the criteria that the Dodgers would typically have. I could totally see something like that, but they become a really interesting team now with some of their young arms that they have to potentially dangle in trades because they want to upgrade this offense. I think that's clear. It's just a matter of how they do it, what they look to improve on. Maybe Nolan Arenado becomes another option for them. Phillies, Dodgers, Astros, a lot of the teams that have been mentioned.
The Dodgers.
Why not, man? You don't want to see Nolan Arenado go off as an MVP for that team?
He's going to win the World Series.
Dude, when he just said the Dodgers are looking to improve their offense, in my head I went, oh my God, they have Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. They just won a World Series. Will Smith's unbelievable. They're probably going to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez. I can't give them more.
I think Arenado would be a great Dodger, by the way. Like, given what they need, he'll hit for contact. He'll drive a bunch of runs. And he'll play excellent defense for them at third base. Like, he would be great there. You'd have him batting 7th, Tommy Edman batting 9th. Now you've got Helsley and Libby coming out of their bullpen. Like, imagine the team.
I don't want to do it.
I'll take Max Muncy and Bobby Miller for him.
I just feel gross helping the Dodgers.
No, man. Got to help him. Got to help him out.
He's Alex the T-Bone on BK. In 15 minutes, we'll talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues. But coming up next, time for our NFL weekend look ahead, and really just NFL week look ahead, because we got Thursday games, we got a Friday game, we got a bunch of Sunday games. What are the games that we're most looking forward to? What are some of the upsets that we're watching for? We'll get into all of that coming up next here on 101 ESPN. All right, boys, let's get into our NFL weekend look ahead, which this week includes the Thursday and Friday slate. Friday, don't forget, Chiefs versus Raiders. If you forget it, it's fine. You don't watch that game. It's at 2 o'clock. It's just not.
I think BK should have had a mandatory make that his 3-point play because he was so confident that the Chiefs are going to win that by like 20 points.
No. I'm confident that the Chiefs will win by like 10. They'll win and keep them at arm's distance the whole time.
That's not a blowout.
Like 31-20, 31-21 feels about right. I would not bet that. Do not touch the points on that game. All right. I do think the over is potentially pretty interesting there, though. 42.5 is the over-under for that game. All right. Best game of the week, Alex. If you could only watch one over the next 4 days, which game are you sitting in front of your television to watch?
It's my 1-point play, and it's on Sunday. It's Eagles-Ravens. I'm excited for this one because I don't trust the Eagles. Like you mentioned, the Ravens have the better head coach in this one. But, man, I think the Eagles got the better offense, at least for right now. And it's wild to say that with Lamar Jackson playing like an MVP. But Saquon's been unreal. Jalen Hurts has been really good for them. You've got Brown. I don't think they're going to have Devontae Smith back in that one. I haven't heard anything.
I don't believe so. I have not heard otherwise.
That's the one for me that I'm most excited about.
I'm going to go to Thursday night. I think Packers and Dolphins has a chance to be a really fun football game. Now, I do worry about the Dolphins playing outside in the cold because we've seen historically they really struggle with that. But they're starting to look like the Dolphins of old. And if they can find a way to somehow piece this together in the cold of Green Bay, they'll have a shot to take down the Green Bay Packers. So I think that's going to be the best game of the weekend.
It's a fun one. My best game that I would point to, I love both of those. Steelers-Bengals. Did you guys see the line on this one?
Yeah. I almost took this one in our pick'em.
Bengals are -3. They're a 3-point home favorite against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that feels right to me. Were you guys going to take the Steelers side of things?
I was going to take the Bengals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was leaning towards Steelers because I think they have a bounce-back game under Mike Tomlin. And defensively, though I don't think they put up points, I can see where they can win that game by like 3 and they somehow shut down that Bengals offense.
I just think coming off of that bye for Cincinnati, I think there's going to be a little pissed-off energy there, and I would be very concerned that Steelers might be a little down on their offense after the uncertainty of the quarterback.
Bengals offense did not really get to play Pittsburgh at full strength last year. It was Jake Browning in there, so don't really use last year as your guide, but a couple of seasons ago, the Bengals were able to put up 37 against them when they played them at full strength. I think this Bengals offense against anybody can put up points whenever they're at full strength. And right now they are. So I'll be interested to see what that game looks like. That would be my game to watch. Alex, if you're looking for an upset, what are you going to?
Oh, man. I think I might be looking at this Panthers-Buccaneers game as the upset. I know T-Bone's not feeling it right now, but, man, Tampa's defense has been bad. And I don't trust Bryce Young, but there's something in the water right now with Carolina. It's a home game. You're coming off of that Chiefs match where you were pretty competitive. I think I could see the Panthers winning this one straight up.
So I had 2. One of them, I don't know, it is a 3-point spread. I don't know if it'd be all that surprising. Cardinals beating Vikings, I can kind of see. The one, though, that I am leaning towards is Titans on the road at the Commanders. Guys, the Commanders have all kinds of weird vibes going on right now. And their offense hasn't been clicking like it was early on in the year, which that's also a Cliff Kingsbury thing that typically happens. Yep. And when you look at the Commanders' defense, they just got picked apart by Cooper Rush. Like, Cooper Rush looked good against them. So I could see where Will Levis, who is playing good football now of late, I could see where he has another big game. They come into Washington, they surprise the Commanders, and everybody starts to panic.
Yeah, I like that Cardinals call. 3.5-point dog on the road. It does make me a little nervous. Minnesota's not an easy place to play, and I do think that the Vikings defense will give Kyler some trouble. One that I would be looking towards is, what about the Patriots at home against the Colts? Only a 2.5, 3-point line in favor of the Colts. The Patriots are home underdog in this one. I've really liked what we've seen from Drake May. And if you're telling me I can get Drake May as a home underdog against an opposition that I don't really trust with Indianapolis, I could see them winning that game outright. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
That was another one that I thought about with my pick'em too. I had like 7 of them in the Patriots. I never know what to get with Richardson, man. It's such a freaking wild card with that offense to where 1 week it could be bad, and then the next week they could go put up 35 points.
All right, what's the overreaction game? Sometimes this is tough in this week because, like, it's entirely possible a game from tomorrow would have been that game. I think Dolphins-Packers could have been the overreaction game of the week, depending on what happens. But let's assume that there will still be those that carry over to Monday. What's your overreaction game of the week? I think it's Bengals-Steelers.
I thought about that one.
If the Bengals win that game, people will be calling the Steelers complete frauds. That will be the reaction on Monday morning. They'll be like, oh,
back-to-back losses.
Yeah, back-to-back losses, barely beat Baltimore. That was their Super Bowl. Now you look at what's coming up. They've got Philly, Baltimore, KC, and Cincinnati again. They're going to finish with a 9-8 record. And look, it's just more of the same from Mike Tomlin, winning 9 games but not doing anything beyond that. I think that's going to be the talk.
Yeah, I personally feel like there's two. Like the Dolphins-Packers feels a little overreaction to me in terms of like if the Packers just go out there and put a hurting on the Dolphins, it's going to be like, oh, this is the team that could take down the Detroit Lions. And I just don't see it. I really wonder, though, if there's going to be a little overreaction with this Bills-49ers game. In the sense of if the 49ers keep it close, people are going to be like, oh, man, the Bills, this isn't going to be that dominant of a team in the AFC. It's Baltimore. It's Kansas City's to lose. And I would look at that as more of a rebound for the 49ers than I would worry about the Buffalo Bills. So those are the two that I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, I thought about Eagles-Ravens feels like one to me.
Love it. I'm glad you brought it up.
Because Eagles, I don't know if there's much overreaction in that game involved if they end up winning. Maybe some of like saying, oh, yeah, they're the team to beat in the NFC. Maybe some of that starts to leak out. But I think it is more on the Ravens side. If the Ravens find a way to beat the Eagles at home, I can see, especially if what you're talking about happens in that Sunday night game, where everybody looks at Baltimore and goes, aha, look, Baltimore, they are still the team. Yeah. They're the team that's going to push the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't even think that's the case. I think they are, I think BK said this yesterday, I think they're clearly in the second tier all alone. I don't think they can beat the Chiefs, but I can see where if they find a way to beat Philadelphia, who's playing really well, some of that conversation starts to come back out.
I love that game for the overreactions because there's so much potential. If Nick Sirianni makes some kind of a boneheaded mistake, it's going to be on Monday morning. But if they lose because of it, on Monday morning, it'll be, this was always going to happen. We all knew it. It was just a matter of time before Nick Sirianni cost his team, which is the most talented team in the NFL, an opportunity at a Super Bowl. What you just saw against Baltimore, that's what we will see in the postseason, and that's why nobody's picking up. That'll be the talking heads on ESPN on Monday. That'll be what they're talking about. Hell, we'll talk about it because that's what some of us believe. I like the other side even better, though. Baltimore losing this game is just delicious from a perspective of like,
they're frauds.
Really? We really thought that this was going to be the team. They lost against Pittsburgh. They, yes, had a really nice win against LA. The Chargers aren't ready. They're not ready to be that kind of a contender yet. When they go up against a real contender, they lose almost every time. The one time they didn't was against Buffalo earlier in the season. That was it. That was the one time where we saw them really put that performance on full display. So, yeah, I think the Baltimore Ravens side of losing is the best possible because they're also going into the bye. So...
it's also going to be Lamar Jackson, not an MVP anymore. Because if they lose, Saquon Barkley has a good game, and it's like he's not the MVP.
There's a lot of MVP talk coming out of this game for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Saquon has a big game, and they beat Lamar. That's a great point by you. It's a great point by you.
They are a fascinating case. And the funny thing is remember we were panicking about the Ravens early on, and then it all got kind of washed away. And here it is once again, a re-emerging of panic with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, it's not what it was early on. Early on, it was, whoa, that offensive line. Will they be able to protect Lamar? Now it is, whoa, that defense. Whoa, they give up a lot of yards. What did you say earlier? Like 300 passing yards in like 7 straight or something?
Yeah, there's 6 straight games. It's been over 300 passing yards.
All right, last thing that I wanted to get to. I'm struggling with some of my picks for the Fast Lane Pick'em Challenge. I want to get your guys' perspective.
We got you shot in the butt the one time. We'll help again.
Alex, I know what your pick is on this one. I'm curious, T-Bone. Chargers versus Falcons. It's a 2-point spread in favor of the Chargers on the road. How do you guys feel about this one?
I like Chargers. I agree with Alex. I think the Falcons are frauds. I think they're a fantasy football team that wins their division with like 9 wins.
Now, the one thing why I hesitated on this was because of T-Bone's old like West Coast to East Coast thing.
That is a good point.
I don't care. The Falcons are a joke. And the Chargers have a very good defense, and their quarterback's going to go off in this one.
Now I am kind of leaning
Colts, Patriots. Patriots are at home. 2.5-point favorite are the Indianapolis Colts on the road. I gave serious consideration to straight up picking the Patriots.
I would too. I feel the Patriots. Like I said, this was potentially my 1-point play. I think the Patriots have the better quarterback, and I think they've got the better all-around defense. And to me, that is a recipe for disaster for Richardson and success for the Patriots.
It just feels like this is going to be like whichever defense makes more mistakes ends up losing. Because I don't trust either defense, and the quarterbacks are prone to really big plays and really terrible plays going in the other direction. I have no real feel for it.
I'm going Colts. I think you're going to see a big bounce back game from Jonathan Taylor. And I think that's the reason they end up winning this football game.
Seahawks, Jets Seahawks are on the road. If they were at home, this would be an easy pick for me. But it's a East Coast to West Coast to East Coast, 12 o'clock slate. Seahawks are a 2-point favorite on the road. The Jets, I think, have given up on the season, so I want to take the Seahawks. But are you guys leaning?
I would go Seahawks. I mean, they were talking about benching Aaron Rodgers. I would go the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing a big Aaron Rodgers game. And a little west of the East Coast. I have no trust in the Seahawks either, so I actually like the Jets in this game.
Who's the better quarterback? Now. Not overall.
Gino.
Who's the better quarterback now?
Definitely Gino.
And I'm going to go with that quarterback. And I think they got the better coach, too.
T-Bone, can I trust your dumb team to win?
I almost took them in the
Rams.
I don't trust your dumb team.
The Rams are the team that, though they have had some weird games, they typically take care of business against this team. This year, they were shown on Sunday night, hey, you don't belong with the top of the NFC. I think they can take care of the teams that are bad.
I don't trust their defense, and I think Derek Carr has a good game, which is why I didn't pick them.
Nah.
And you like the Ravens?
No, I took the Eagles plus 3.
You got the Eagles?
Mm-hmm. I think they win that straight up.
Who do you like in that one?
I like Eagles as well.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
They've got the actual MVP.
Jalen Hurts. Well,
Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni always looks like he's like
those are my
looking
50-50
at
picks. I think we pretty much agreed on them, which is a little concerning.
Yeah, that's not good. That means every one of them are losses.
All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, here on BK and Ferrario.
Hey, let's talk turkey. And not the kind you're going to serve tomorrow. How about just making sure that the house is comfortable for when the family comes over tomorrow? Now, we've talked about getting Classic Air Care over to your house to have them just maintain your unit. Make sure that everything's cleaned up. Things are vacuumed out. Everything is running the way it should as we get into the winter months. I want to tell you a little bit about what happens afterwards. Once they make sure that everything's good, they tell you what they did. They make sure that the vents are blowing the right variance of heat out compared to where it's directly leaving the unit. That kind of detail. The phone rang today, and it was, hey, we were just checking in on the service that our company provided for you last week. Make sure you're happy. Make sure everything was explained well. The follow-up is awesome. That's how much Classic Air Care cares about the company. And look, that it's not just because it was me doing it and because I'm talking about them on the air. This is the quality of service that they provide to everybody, which is why I'm so proud to be able to tell you to go ahead and have Classic Air Care come in to maintain your HVAC unit. It's a quality company. It's a local company, and they take care of you as well as they take care of their next-door neighbors or their own houses. Get an appointment, get on the books, get great customer service, and make sure that HVAC unit is ready to go for the winter. They've got the vents you can have. They've got filters. They've got maintenance programs. They've got everything to take care of your house. Classic Air Care and online at classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues will be back in action tonight as they visit the New Jersey Devils. And we'll have pregame coverage starting at 5 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. The Joey will join Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 6. And the voice of the Blues joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alex, you said you got an update on the Juan Soto sweepstakes?
Yeah, apparently, ladies and gentlemen, Big Papi is going to be making a one-on-one meeting with Juan Soto. They're bringing out the red carpet.
I think there's a real chance that Juan Soto ends up in Boston.
Well,
if
they
this
don't
comes
have
down
money.
to money, I think it'll be the Mets. I think that's where he ends up. But Boston's making a real push here, man. I don't know what happened when
They found money.
Hey, I'll believe it when I see
they had
it.
Chaim Bloom as their general manager. They were doing everything they could to cut payroll, and now suddenly they appear to have found a few pennies in the couch cushions.
The
I don't
last
know what
couple of
happened.
years, I've said the classic, well, we were right there. And I guess what I saw the first tweet was last night when Snell signed with the Dodgers. Well, the Red Sox were in the running.
I'd love it if the Red Sox did the Price is Right rule to where, like, the Mets offer was like $700 million, and the Red Sox were like $700 million and one penny.
Yeah. That they are doing the classic Cardinals.
Yeah.
Like, the Cardinals were in on that guy, but they finished in second or third.
Yeah.
But man, he really considered their offer there at the end. All right, let's go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to talk a little bit about the St. Louis Blues with Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues, and you hear him weekly here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Fellas, doing really well. Looking forward to hopefully finishing this road trip with a win and then getting home for the holiday.
Yeah, fun matchup. New Jersey's been playing some really inspired hockey this season, Kerbs. For you, as you start breaking down what you're looking for in this game, what are you most curious about for the Blues against the Devils?
Well, I just want to see a follow-up. There was a really good vibe after, the challenges of the last couple of days with the coaching change. The team came out. They played a really solid game. Now, it was against a Rangers team that's been stepping on some banana peels lately, but this New Jersey Devils team has been really solid in all aspects of their game. They're good offensively. They're strong defensively. And frankly, they should. They've been drafting high picks for the last 10 years. So, I mean, this shouldn't be surprised that the Devils are finally decent and good. But for me, it's a great challenge for the St. Louis Blues to follow up from the last game. So first thing I'm looking for, togetherness on the ice. Are you seeing the block shots? Are you seeing the continued stand up for each other? And then secondly, we saw very active defense. We saw pressure in the offensive zone in the last game, and I want to see that continue. And I think that that is going to help the offense, and that's also going to help the defense.
Curbs, one thing that stuck out to me was just hearing Joe on the broadcast talk about how active Jim Montgomery was on that bench, and then seeing a lot of the tweets on social media of just Jim Montgomery in the ear of Zach Bolduc, in the ear of Jordan Kyrou, kind of patting guys on the back and joking around with them. It kind of gave off the same vibes of what Berube was that first year with the Blues, of how he was always after skates, tapping them on the rear end with the sticks and talking with them during games.
Well, it's look, it's an early opportunity for Jim Montgomery to connect with these guys, and in one sense, reconnect with some guys when he was on the bench as an assistant. But now, look, it's different. He's on the bench as a head coach. Okay, so as a head coach in your first game, when you're coming in and you had met the team at 9 p.m. the night before, it's not like you're going to be jumping all over guys when you see a mistake, because you just got to get a feel for things. So I think it's an easy role to come in and kind of be that support guys, just to be the positive vibe. Now, over time, you're going to have to crack on guys. Over time, you're going to have to increase your demands. You're going to have to increase your expectations, and that's what's going to happen here. But all in all, it was a good game, and yeah, you're going to have to be vocal on the bench too when you're coming in. You want guys to get used to hearing that voice, to knowing what to expect. So I thought it was, it was just a real good, positive game, all in all, for the St. Louis Blues. And look, guys, it's a hard situation, when a coach has changed, and players take some of that stuff personally, as they should, because they realize that, look, I mean, Drew Bannister can coach, right? The players take some of the blame for themselves, and they absolutely should look inwardly at it. So it's a situation now, though, where it's a fresh start and it's a clean slate. So you've got a positive attitude. Now you want to prove yourself to the new guy. That creates a little bit of that extra energy burst for you. But now it's up to you as a player to maintain that. And that goes back to kind of what BK's first question is we'll see if they do maintain that over the first two games.
Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He joins us each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. You'll hear him on the call tonight. Blues versus the New Jersey Devils at 6 o'clock. Alex has pregame starting right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN at 5. Kerbs, whether it's tonight, Saturday night, Tuesday night, there's a pretty strong likelihood that Jordan Binnington will break the record at some point over the next week before we talk to you again to become the winningest goalie in the history of the St. Louis Blues franchise. Have you been thinking at all about putting into context, where Jordan Binnington will go down in the history of this organization?
Yeah, and
contextualizing
even
things.
Sure, and absolutely, and honestly, it didn't take him knocking on the door of this record to get there. I think he goes down as one of the best goaltenders in franchise history. I think when you look at the fact that 151 wins is the franchise record, there's only 3 teams in the National Hockey League right now: Las Vegas, Utah, and Seattle, whose franchise record for wins as a goaltender is less than that. Put that into perspective. We're talking those expansion teams that came in 98 and 2000 have higher records than that. It shows you that despite the fact that some of the greatest names in the history of the game have played goal for the St. Louis Blues, they haven't had longevity with most of them. And so you're seeing longevity now starting to get there with Jordan Binnington. You're seeing him give you a chance to win every single game. He's going to set this record. He's helped your team win a Stanley Cup. In my opinion, he goes down as one of the best goaltenders in franchise history, and that doesn't mean you have to have the best goals against average or save percentage. His attitude permeates through the team. There's so much to like about him. I actually think, when you talk about a potential number retirement, who the next one could be, I have to wonder if at some point in time, assuming he's your goaltender for the next couple of years, if the next number in line might be number 50.
How impactful is a Binnington for a Joel Hofer moving forward then, Kerbs?
How impactful is he for the development? Well,
yeah.
This is always look. These two guys get along. 2, Joel Hofer is good, so that's going to help push Binnington along. But the reality of it is it's Jordan Binnington's net right now. Okay, and so to me, as long as Jordan's going, Hofer's kind of waiting in the wings. Now, what does this mean for 2-3 years down the road? I don't know. I hope we see Jordan Binnington play this whole contract out with the St. Louis Blues because of everything that I just said. And like I said, he's playing great hockey. He's clearly in his prime right now.
And if the Blues can really cut down on backdoor chances and some of the defensive lapses, he's going to be even better. I mean, to me, it's impactful. The one, it keeps Hofer fueled to kind of be better because you want to try to take that net. Hofer's got to learn to be ready for certain challenges, and he's learning that. The team is putting him into those challenges this year. So as much as they can rely on Jordan Binnington right now, the Blues are still developing Hofer, and this is a good tandem to do it. So I think just like I would think Ryan O'Reilly and Tyler Bozak and those guys, Braden Shen, have been impactful on the development of Robert Thomas, somebody like Jordan Binnington. Look, as we have a terrific goaltending coach in David Alexander. Maybe some of these assistants aren't talked about enough, but when you talk to guys around the league, his stature, his reputation, his approach to the game. I mean, we even heard Jake Neighbors in that shootout the other night talk about the role that David Alexander plays in helping them figure out shootouts. So they've got a really good situation, not just from their goaltending coach, but right through that system right now.
All right, Curbs, get out of here, man. Enjoy the game tonight. Blues versus Devils. We'll be listening right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. You guys get to come back home for a few days and then right back out on the road. All right, Curbs, you get to go out to Western Canada in early December, just as you love.
Yep, just enough time to eat some turkey, wash the underwear, and then get back on the bird. So we'll have the one home game and have a happy Thanksgiving, you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, Same to you. That's Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. Joins us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. We're going to put a bow on this thing, push things forward as we're off for the next couple of days. Do that next year on the BK and Ferrario Rewind on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Alex. Over the next couple of days, you'll be able to hear plenty of football here on the station. You'll also be able to hear the occasional best of. I think TMA, they're super thrilled. They have 2 full best of shows.
Really?
Yeah, they were really excited to put those together for you guys. They spent a lot of time on
Jackson
it.
was pumped.
So be sure to stay tuned for that tomorrow from 7 to 11, and then, of course, Friday from 7 to 11 as well. Here, I think we had like
live.
One of the
30
morning
minutes
show.
on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Friday we're live, 11 to 2. Centene
We're
Community
11 to
Ice Center.
1:30. I'll be here doing our best.
That sounds great.
Amen.
T-Bone's going to make sure to record that for you, and he'll be ready.
I'll be here.
T-Bone is live
In
broadcasting
studio.
the best stuff.
Like Brandon,
If you guys
who
are
would
tuning
record it.
in, there will be local programming up until like I think 1:30.
Commitment.
So enjoy that. Alex, what do you guys have going on for Thanksgiving? What's your
A whole lot of family
typical
get-togethers.
go-to?
So we always do Katie's family in the morning or in the afternoon on Thanksgiving, and then the evening with my family. And it's a lot of turkey, a lot of football, and a lot of playing poker.
you turkey or ham guy?
I hate turkey. We're like either ravioli or lasagna.
Oh, hell yeah.
What?
And we go
after my heart.
And we go
That's
to the
what I'm
hill.
talking
So
about.
the turkey's my wife's side. They do the traditional turkey, and I just don't eat.
Non-Italian.
Yeah. When we get to the Italian side, it's homemade lasagna
God
or
bless it.
homemade ravioli, and it's salami from the hill.
We do the ravioli for Christmas. That was our thing.
We rotate. So one does the ravioli,
Sure.
one does the lasagna,
Man, good work by you.
and it's Joya's salami. Yeah, Joya's
That's good
salami. It's Vitali's
salami.
bread from the bakery. It's like fresh cheese from the hill. It's olive salad from the hill. It's just all Italian.
So I get disowned by my family for this, but
You don't like
I
olives?
hate olives.
Katie hates them too, but man,
Despise olives.
they got that. I don't remember what the actual story is, but they got a jar of olive salad where it's just green olives and celery and olive oil.
See, this just sounds like a typical Thursday meal. Nothing special about it.
Oh yeah, you typically
just go olive salad
and
with
make homemade
salami.
wraps.
Oh, yeah.
You know how long that
100%.
takes?
Oh, it's a
Dude, my
typical
grandma
Thursday.
used to we used to have like a day in the middle of November to make the ravioli, and then it would be available
day
for
was
us
called
at dinner.
Thanksgiving,
Homemade
because
And
pasta
then we
Turkey
sauce.
freeze a
didn't
bunch
know.
of it because you make so damn much of it during that one meal.
Yeah. I love. That's why Thanksgiving and Christmas is always just that traditional Italian food, and it's so
T-Bone,
good.
you going back to the land of the flying squirrels?
Yeah.
The white squirrels.
White squirrels.
Oh,
What'd you
sorry.
call
They
them?
don't
Flat
fly.
squirrels? Oh.
The flat squirrels.
Well, yeah, they're not
That's called
squished.
roadkill, and no, they're not there.
I might
I would
see some of
imagine.
them. Yeah. I'll be heading back to the home of the white squirrels, having a real Thanksgiving
but you'll
meal.
be here Friday.
I will be back here Friday doing our best of from 11 to 1:30 before Chiefs and Raiders football. But see, art of radio, man. Come on.
Also,
but I'm having turkey,
gross.
stuffing, mashed potatoes, rolls. The whole
disgusting.
Oh,
How do you
that
say
is
that?
so
Mashed
good.
what?
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed
That's
potatoes.
real.
How do you say it?
Mashed potatoes.
Well, you can say that.
Mashed
But,
potatoes.
you're so mid.
Yeah, you are.
JR
God,
was like defining
so
terms
mid,
for us
bro.
on Wednesday
Also,
or Tuesday.
That was a very only Illinois way of describing
That's
your
what the cool
Thanksgiving.
guys
Say that. Also, don't overlook the best tradition
some
on
pumpkin
Thanksgiving.
pie.
Oh, that's true. Don't overlook the best tradition of Thanksgiving, and that's watching the
guys go-
Godfather Marathon on AMC.
Oh, really?
I mean, that's better than the football
my
games this year,
my grandpa Joe.
That game's nice.
After he would finish that homemade lasagna, the pants would get unbuttoned, and he'd sit on the couch, and
He'd
it
give
would
you that
just
grunt when he sat
and
down?
he'd just be asleep watching Godfather Part 2. Oh yeah, can't wait for that. I got 3 kids I'm gonna have to chase around, so
sad.
you just put them in a corner and say, "Go play with your cousins. We'll see you afterwards."
We're going over to Kara's family. She has like 150 people that all come over together. And
Good.
we got
That's too many people, man.
I think it's 55.
That's too
is
many
what we
people.
have in one house.
I think we have like 15.
we're gonna
and
have
that's
8 at
enough.
my house?
That's too many.
With a new kid, like a lot of the siblings have had kids over the last couple. It might be closer to like 60 or 65 at this point.
You need to tell them all to stop breeding. Like, let's calm down, guys.
My brother-in-law is making the green bean casserole this year, and so he went to the store to get all of the stuff.
yeah,
for
what
the
do you
green
guys
bean
do?
casserole.
Buy like a big
Basically,
serving tray from
we
Costco?
serve everything in like the industrial size trash cans.
That's ridiculous.
He takes all of the stuff up to the cashier, and she said, who are you cooking for? He said, oh, it's about like 50 to 60 of us. She said, oh yeah, that'll be about right. He was like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
Jesus.
It's It's a lot.
Yeah. I can't do that type of Thanksgiving. That's too many people, man.
Yeah, man. I just sit over there in the corner, watch football,
unbutton your pants
drink
and
some
grunt.
kind of whiskey. I'm going over to our friends at Macadoodles. They're going to get us hooked up for our holiday, and it'll be a good time.
Chocolate drops, too, from the hill. That's dessert.
Oh, really?
Oh, man. Missouri Bakery, let me tell you. It is just, it's chocolate on heaven. That's what it is. It's
We
so
are
freaking
equal
good.
opportunity with our dessert, so we'll have like Le Bon Boucher. Somebody will get something from there. Nathaniel Reed will have somebody get it from there as well. We got a few different things.
That was all too fancy of stuff that I've never heard
Le Bon
before.
Boucher is right down the
Pie
street.
I-
It's just bakeries.
It's pumpkin
Nathaniel Reed is
pie,
amazing.
It's
if you've never
apple
been.
pie, and it's chocolate drops.
He's
It's
Alex.
a lot of fatness taking
That
place
is
that
T-Bone.
evening.
I'm BK.
I wear
Thank you guys
sweatpants.
so much for what you guys do for us. We would not be possible if not for all of you. We got some good news on the ratings front yesterday. You guys made us in Min Target Demo the number one show in middays for October and November.
Yeah.
So we cannot thank you enough for making what we do possible. You guys enjoy yourself over the weekend. Be super safe out there. Be smart. Get an Uber if you need it. We'll talk to you guys on Monday at 11 a.m. For Alex T-Bone, I'm BK. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, St. Louis.